What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Hellbent Holler Live. I'm Jesse. This is Joe. It is Monday at 7:30. This is what time we do our live stream every single week. If you're new here, this is what we do every week. We get together with the Hellbenders who are our viewers, and we just have a free forum chat every single Monday, and it's always a good time. We always get into a bit of mischief on here. We talk about really, really deep subjects. We get into the weeds a little bit sometimes, but it's all in good fun. After last week's squatching of the lambs debacle,
Yeah.
we have not received a cease and desist letter, thank goodness, from Todd Standing, which is good. So things are looking up. Things are looking up. But yeah, we're looking forward to what we talk about tonight and what we get into tonight. Joseph?
Yeah, I'm surprised we've got anybody back after last week. So I was on the chat of I think it was Encrypted Connections was having a live stream, and I was on the chat, and some of you guys were on there, and I made a comment to the effect of like our chat was like a gladiator academy. Everybody kind of drops off. We got a few that drop off every week. The ones that are left are stronger. So
you're better people for it.
Yeah, you're better, stronger people for it. So, but yeah, we I'm sure we weeded out a few people last week with who were they just wanted to hear a few Bigfoot stories, man. You know, I wanted to hear some park ranger stories about Bigfoots dragging people out of campers, and instead I got Todd Standings making clothing out of women's skin. I don't even know who said that in the chat. I just kind of caught that towards the tail of it. So
I need to make like a highlight, like a short.
Don't make a highlight reel of that because we will get a freaking cease and desist order.
Yeah,
and that's all in good fun. It's all in good fun. I mean,
it is all in good fun.
If anything else, I spent a lot of time, and you know what's weird is I got some like real like. All right, let me back up. First off, we are majorly behind on emails.
Yes.
Going to the LBL put us majorly behind on emails. So I know some people are getting a little upset that we haven't answered them because I've gotten up to 20 emails from particular people and they get progressively nastier. We're trying to catch up. There's just two of us and we want everybody to share like their thoughts and to email us, please, but do realize that we're still playing catch up. That being said, just kind of going through there, we had some hate mail just because I didn't jump on the immediate. I think Todd Standing's a hoaxer. Okay. I don't know Todd Standing's a hoaxer.
Okay. See, that's a distinction. That's a distinction there. So
if Todd Standing was to go, hey, Joe and Jesse, let me take you through how my evidence that I've shared is real. I'd listen to him. I'd give him.
Of course. I think you should. I think you should listen to everybody when they want to present evidence to you. Yeah, so we got hate mail about that we didn't jump on the bandwagon. A lot of people are very, very passionate about weird things.
I understand that, and I understand why, because again, but let's just be honest, man. There's worse people out there than Todd Standing. If you want to start drawing that hoax line, so
yeah, that's true.
Anyway,
that's true.
So,
oh yeah. So speaking of emails as well, yeah, we are behind in emails. Again, this is a 2-person operation. So, we also have full-time jobs and we're actually in the middle of a very, very big, I guess, life change.
Yeah, we're moving. So we're having to balance everything right now.
We're in the process of looking for a house right now. So we have been, house hunting. And we're in the process of finding a house to buy.
And you know, the house market's just such a cakewalk right now.
It's such a joy.
So just bear with us a little bit, guys. Don't stop emailing us. Email, but just realize that if I don't get back to you immediately or she doesn't get back to you immediately, it's not that we don't care. It's not that we're being a-holes. It's not that we're. It's just that
too good for anything. What are the other comments that we're? Just like the others.
We're just like the others. We don't answer emails. And I'm going, dude, we answer every comment that is left on our channel and we answer every email. It might take us a little bit of time to get through them.
I'm not like the others, baby. I'm different.
I'm different. I'm not like the others.
But yeah, we do.
Todd Standing would say, let Todd Standing take you out. Does Todd Standing refer to himself in the third person?
Does he talk in third person?
Because
I hope so.
That's pretty cool, to be honest with you. So. Listen, Todd Standing's going to show you a couple of things, and by the time the weekend's over with, I think you're going to agree with Todd Standing that Todd Standing's a upright kind of guy.
And the fact that he uses his first and last name.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know?
You know what I'm saying? So.
Is the best part about that. Yeah. God. And another thing, like when you guys email us, we also don't have a lot of time. Like we say, we don't have a lot of time. We're very, very busy. Don't send us a bunch of other people's videos to watch. We don't have time to watch other people's videos on YouTube, really.
Unless it's something like kind of groundbreaking,
something
groundbreaking, cool. So yeah,
or something that really pertains directly to something we're doing. But I can't have another Park Ranger spills the beans. Hog Ranger baby beans.
Yeah.
I can't have another Park Ranger spills the beans creepypasta video. I just can't. I can't. Yeah. I'm sorry.
Now, if they've actually got like what Bart Nunley's got, like a legit verified person that's sharing some stuff, but if it's just a creepypasta type thing, that's enjoyable, but it's just that, there's only enough hours in the day.
Please refrain. Thank you.
So I sent you Pig Boy video.
I was laughing last week because Secret 1975 said something about.
We just caught it. We don't even know it was in reference to.
He said something about talk about the Pig Boy, and I just imagine him shirtless, drinking, just drunk in a recliner.
Talk about the Pig Boy,
and he's just going talk about the Pig Boy. So all right, so we've got a Pig Boy reference there. We will check the email concerning Pig Boy.
Anyway, and we don't want to sound like we're complaining about the emails.
We're not.
It's just that we're doing our best to catch up. And like I said, it was just I could sense that some people were getting upset that we weren't responding. And I know it's taken. I don't even know how far back we are in emails right now. We got a ton while we were in the LBL. We had limited. When we did have like connection and signal, we were trying to live stream, so we weren't really doing a lot of time checking emails while we were in the LBL.
Yeah.
And so we're going to get caught up, guys. Just. And please keep emailing us, but just, do realize that if you don't hear back from us immediately, it's not that we're trying to just ignore you. It's just we're trying to play catch up. So enough of that.
We're doing our best. Doing my best. So.
All right. So going through the chat here real quick. One of the things that, and I don't know if I can find it, but Take Two Wheels, as you guys know, Take Two Wheels is in the Kentucky area. He's not too far from the LBL, and he is still reporting that there are gunshots and explosions across Kentucky Lake this week. So that's still going on from where we experienced.
So that's a few weeks of alleged hog eradication going on. Maybe we could throw Pig Boy on this case.
Get Pig Boy in there. Pig Boy had this crap wrapped up like lickety split.
Yeah, so he's also mentioned that he's heard helicopters coming in and out.
That was giving me my question: has he heard the helicopters?
Yeah, so. I think that he follows up with that after that. But so he mentions that he's been hearing helicopters coming in and out ever since then. So this is like a long-winded kind of thing. I wonder, are they doing it? Are they shutting down areas still where there were people going in to go camping and stuff? I guess the weather's not been that great lately, so maybe they're really hightailing it to get all this done before season really kicks in.
Mm-hmm.
I know that season starts in March. I don't know approximately what day in March that season officially starts around that area, but the whole area depends on season, and that's Grand Rivers, Kentucky, Katie's, all that area kind of depends on people coming to the LBL and using the recreation area. So it's interesting to think that we're almost up into season, I would assume, and they're still just going real hardcore with helicopters and explosives and gunfire. I'm exhausted. It's been a crazy couple of weeks. Like we're house hunting, and it is not fun. It is not fun. But with that, when we do find a house, it will come with a brand new studio space, and I'll actually have space to film other types of shows to share with you guys and really expand Hellbent Holler out. And I think you guys are really going to enjoy that. I know I'm going to enjoy it, and I'm going to enjoy interacting with you guys more when it comes to that. So we are looking at the chat now, getting started with this.
Mark wants to know where's the next field trip. We have got a ton of backlogged footage that we have to go through and check. We have the follow-up to that weird experience we were having in North Georgia. We have. Don't you have something else? Don't you have like the
I got the
actual
Brown Mountain
the
Lights
Brown
stuff.
Mountain Lights, like
The full footage I need to
yeah, that we need to
release.
do,
Yeah.
and then the LBL footage. That being said, we're probably going to be back out in a location. I'm not going to say exactly where, and you'll understand why. You've watched this enough and what everybody seems to be going through right now with getting doxxed from some of the channels, other channels. But we'll be out probably. We'll be out once probably the next 2 weeks. Right now, usually we're out every week.
Yeah.
We're out like at least a day and a half every week, week after week after week. Right now, post LBL and with the move and everything like that, it'll be a little less frequent, but we've got some cool stuff planned out.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to after we finally move and set up the new studio space and set up a few other things that it's really going to expand and kind of go to the next level. And I know that you guys really enjoy these Monday live streams. We're going to constantly keep these up. Of course, this is kind of our this is our rock in the storm. Sometimes
it is, exactly. Yeah, even if it's kind of hectic, we still look forward to doing this. Stingray 1975 said Pig Boy is actually kind of legit. Was in Georgia. All right, hold on 1 second. Let me look up Pig Boy.
Make sure you keep your safe search on, because you don't want to get those other Pig Boy websites.
Legend of Pig Boy. What? Pig Boy. Good God. Yeah, I guess there's a couple of pigmen out there. Georgia's got a few pigmen. Pigmen, pig boys.
Pigmen?
Pigmen.
Pig gentlemen of an advanced age.
All right, hold on. This is pretty good. Sweet Jesus.
Do you want to share it? Or
I know, because I'm afraid I don't even want to be on this webpage now because
Pig Love? Okay, get off of that.
Piglove.wordpress.com.
Yeah, you need to probably get
South
off
Georgia.
of
that. We're already on the list. So, Pigman. Yeah, there's a Pigman and a Pig Boy. And apparently this person is really into the pig variant cryptids because they have a whole WordPress site. At least I hope that's what that Pig Love is for.
Please God. Yeah. Gunpowder Owl says, what are the chances of military training in LBL? That seems really weird, but if the gunfire explosions are still ongoing, I'm starting to wonder how many dogmen are they trying to put down?
I think if they do
military exercises nearby at Fort Campbell.
Yeah, and I think that if they were doing something inside the LBL, that would be something they would be very upfront and honest about. Like, hey, we're doing military training.
Yeah, because that really puts a lot of people at risk. If you have a hiker, because there's a lot of trails there's a north to south trail that goes obviously north to south down the peninsula. And if you have like a hiker, like a through hiker, somebody that's doing that and they're camping along the way,
and then all of a sudden they just hear all hell break loose.
They enter into kind of an area it's dangerous. You know, I'd be worried about their safety. And I don't think they want to really have a hiker catch a stray bullet or something.
Well, that too, you don't want people, you don't want people not knowing what's going on and then calling the police, going, hey, there's like terrorists operating.
I mean, well, technically the government is operating in the LBL, so that's correct.
Yeah, there is. But I mean, you know, you have, like, what is it? Robin Sage that takes place up in North Carolina, where the Special Forces school graduates go up there and they do insurgent training.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And they've been doing that up there for how many years now? And that's like a yearly thing. And a lot of the locals get involved with it. And then still every year they still have
calls about it.
They even have police officers that don't know what's going on.
Yeah.
So I would think that if they were doing military training, that would be, and you know what, that would actually probably be a pretty good cover. Be interesting to see if they do.
Yeah, that would be a great cover for it, because then people would be like, "Oh, it's a military training exercise."
Yeah.
Well, that's what they say when they're doing. You know, that's what they say when in the UAP phenomenon. You know, oh, it's just a military training exercise. Yeah. It's not any sort of anomalous vehicle or anything from outer space or anything like that. This is just a training exercise. This is something friendly. You know, we don't worry about it. Just ignore it. Barton Unley says, we heard them while fending off a gaggle of overly friendly skunks.
The skunks were like legit in there, man. Those skunks, they're LBL. I can't say for what else for certain is going on there.
Skunks for sure.
Skunks have got like a pretty good lockdown on a
Yeah.
pretty good portion of that peninsula.
Every night that we were going up and down the trace, we saw, I mean, one night we counted what, 15 skunks?
Yeah, but we saw the reverse skunks too.
Yeah.
Not the black ones with the white stripe. These were like white skunks with the black stripe, you know.
They were ganging up, skunk gang.
Skunk gang. And they were hanging out with deer too. I mean, like
Yeah,
right
they
up
were.
with deer. It's been like some sort of cross species.
I think it's mating season for skunks, is what somebody mentioned in our chat, didn't they? At some point in time where we were talking about all the.
Hope those deer keep their
Keep
skunk
their
deer,
distance.
not be pig boy and skunk deer. So
Catch says, I've been gone too long. What's this pig boy mess?
you're gonna have to just listen.
I don't think there is any catching up on pig boy because we're still not aware of exactly what pig boy
I'm
means.
exactly aware of what's going on with Pig Boy. I just found you the site for God's sake. So Pig Boy, Georgia.
Elizabeth Parr says, what about the elusive spring? My poor daffodils are in full bloom and it's snowing. Yeah. It was false spring and now it's winter again.
I'll pull this up here real quick.
Go ahead.
Jim Berthold, I can't understand the amount of sightings here in the northeast of Scotland. What's been weird to us is A, that we have people from overseas watch the show and comment and get in touch with us. We have a lot of people in the British Isles that watch our stuff. Ireland, Northern Ireland. I don't know if we got anybody from Wales. Yeah, we do have somebody from Wales. Take that back. But we get a ton of reports from very credible sounding people of like Dogman stuff.
Yeah.
Given the size and just the constrained nature of the British Isles, that and like the big black cats and then the big black dogs. I often think that the Dogman phenomenon might be tied in somehow with the big black dog, phenomenon that's been taking place in like Great Britain for centuries, you know what I'm saying? If not like 1,000 years. So that's weird though, because you'll have people literally when they have sightings, that's the exact same thing they say. They instantly just go, I don't know how this is possible. Nothing that big could live here without being discovered. But yet people are still seeing it. So.
And did somebody send us that thing about the UK barges with the canals?
Yes.
Somebody sent us that. Thank you for sending us that. We watched a couple of those, the historic narrow boats. We watched a couple of those. That was really wonderful.
Cryptid Response has a good idea back to the LBL and the military training there. There was an incident actually a few years ago in North Carolina. If you guys aren't familiar with this, there's what is it called? Pineland, I think is what it's called. Pineland. Yeah. There are several counties in North Carolina that basically act, they role play as a breakaway province of a foreign country, and special forces school graduates go in there, and that's like the final test as they go in there and
try to put down an insurgency.
No, they try to help the insurgents.
Oh, okay.
They train because that's what special forces do. They go in and they train insurgents, usually behind enemy lines. So they're in there, and then they bring in like other troops to act as like the government troops,
Okay.
And the police are in on it as well because they have to be, But a couple of years ago, like one of the cops didn't get the memo or didn't realize that these dudes, but somebody got like shot and killed. There was like some casualties up there because these guys are going, hey, we're supposed to be role playing as special forces behind enemy lines. This cop's obviously in on it, and the cop wasn't in on it. And somebody got killed. I'm probably butchering the story, but that being said, you would definitely want to alert the public for that because that's real bad optics is to have like, just like you said, like a hiker maybe or somebody that's doing some dispersed camping. And then the next thing you know, they get injured or hurt. It's a huge deal. So
Jody Goodman says, I live in Kentucky. I hear gunshots at night and tannerite explosions. Hey, it's Kentucky. That there's nobody living on the peninsula at the LBL. All the people that live there were kicked off the land. So there is nobody living on the peninsula at the LBL at all. So there should be nobody out there living and firing weapons or exploding tannerite.
Michael Little times in with, we don't do military training in the LBL. It's exactly what we're going to with this. And again, I think that would be a perfect, cover for anything that was going on. Hey, there's just military exercises going
Well,
on.
if that was going to be like the perfect cover, wouldn't they come out and say that when they say, "Hey, avoid these areas because we're doing exercises"?
That's what I'm curious as to whether you're going to see that in the next few years or not. If you'll see, because they use national forests. I don't know what sort of with the LBL being, actually classified as a national recreation area, what the mechanics are for that. But that would be a perfect cover if something was going on.
Would the organization and carrying out of a training of that nature be subject to a FOIA request? Or would that be exempt from that?
Technically, the only people that are really exempt from FOIA requests are the White House and then NORAD.
Yeah.
And so you could get it after the fact.
That would be after the fact.
Yeah, after the fact, you should be able to get it. But
even if it was like a covert like a covert ops.
If it goes into national security, they could redact the hell out of it. But
black budgets.
All right. Baby skunkmen. Here it already starts. Skunks have now.
Michael Boyle says, my brother-in-law saw a big black dog run across the road in front of him and jump a 6-foot wall into a graveyard back in the 70s.
That's one of the things with black dog myths in Great Britain. Usually they're associated with cemeteries. Actually, there was a practice back in the day. Cemetery dogs. They would usually take a dog and bury it when they were consecrating a new cemetery, and
so they'd have to execute the dog.
Pretty much, yeah. So, but they would have cemetery dogs that they would actually bury one in there, kind of for protection.
Oh, okay.
That was like an old pagan like practice that kind of carried over as Christianity became dominant. But yeah, that is a thing. So there's belief that might tie into the whole black dog phenomenon.
Inky says, have you or Jess ever heard anything that sounded like a metal door closing or opening in your investigations?
It's weird how this has just taken off since Martin came forward with his story. Martin Groves has talked about that. And what's weird is that we've been looking at this for years.
Yes.
It's one of the things that you see with a lot of Bigfoot encounters, UFO encounters, hauntings in rural areas like poltergeist activity. And it's mentioned, but it's usually not highlighted that much. It's mentioned enough that you can see the pattern on it. Matter of fact, if you go over to bigfootforums.com, which is a Bigfoot researcher forum, there's a thread that's been going on for years where people talk about that in relation to Bigfoot sightings. And you see some of the craziest stuff like, maybe a tornado blew off a tin roof and their Sasquatch are shaking them to signal there's a tin roof out there in the middle of the woods. But yeah, that's been reported a lot. And when the Missing 411 The Hunters movie came out and they talked about the Tom Mezek disappearance, they talk about how they heard like a metallic sound, almost like a trap.
I don't remember. It's been a while since we've actually watched that film. Do they highlight that? Do they highlight that or do they just mention it?
No. David Pilates kind of dials in on it because
okay.
To me, it's bizarre that it's been overlooked. It's been mentioned so much, but nobody's really keyed on that.
Mm-hmm.
But even with that coming out, you still didn't hear a lot of discussion about it until Martin came out with his. And now it seems like
you made that connection.
I think Martin had kind of made that connection on his own. You know what I'm saying? But that was something that when I heard Martin's story, that was something I keyed in on because I'm going, there's really, why would, if you're having an interaction with like an undiscovered ape, why would you have this metallic sound?
Yeah.
Why would you have a metallic sound with an undiscovered ape that you also have with UFO encounters and you also have with paranormal activity? Why is that sound reported across the spectrum almost no matter what and it's not reported with every case, but you can find enough of every type of flavor of weird phenomena mentions that. And when you get down to Martin's encounter, you got a lot of weird phenomena going on there all at once. And we've heard some weird stuff. I can't recall ever hearing it with like a real extreme experience. Can you? We've heard it before, But we've never like had one of the more, and again, we've never had what you would call like a up close Sasquatch like
No,
experience.
I think anything that we've heard things that were kind of very faintly metallic sounds.
Mhm.
We've heard like metallic whirs before, but never a hardcore closing of a trap or a door.
Mhm.
Nothing super distinct. We've definitely heard sort of lighter metallic sounds, whether it be
Mhm.
like a dragging or a
Yeah.
rattling or something like that. And I think that's occurred mostly in North Georgia that we've
Yeah,
experienced
it's
that.
occurred in North Georgia. So we've had that happen, and then we've had weird kind of low key stuff happen around us. When you look at to us, the big things that have happened so far is obviously that weird burning light that we experienced. Jesse getting bluff charged. We've seen some weird canine things in North Georgia, but they weren't upright though. They were on all fours, but they were weird looking.
Very
when I,
bizarre.
when I
Very
say
bizarre.
weird looking, one looked kind of sickly and was moving with its like body too low to the ground.
And it
Just
almost had absurdly angular, weird exaggerated features.
But anyway, we saw those things in the LBL with our own eyes. We caught that thing in the LBL with the thermal. We've had some what I would call like top tier weirdness. We've never had that sound happen with that. We've had it happen in some areas where we've had some low tier weirdness. So Shelly Vidal popped in. Yeah, we're moving. The area we're in is there's a lot of upheaval in our area, and we are seeking different grounds. So
That's very diplomatic of
very
you.
diplomatic of me there. So
Sorry, my voice is not great today.
yeah, you guys are talking about snow. We're getting killed with like pollen here, man. The pollen is like it's basically like yellow snow at this point. It's pretty freaking
Don't
brutal.
eat the yellow snow.
Yeah, so it's pretty.
I was gonna
brutal.
say it's just we get a small rain and it's just yellow rivers everywhere. It's really rough. But the pollen is killing us. If you want to take the middle, I'll start to head to the end.
Just you go to the end, and we'll just do.
I've
got
go
this.
ahead.
Jones Said Farms. Jones Said Farms has a comment about there's a lot more rangers keeping an eye out on the LBL now. Up until recently, there was funding for 6 law enforcement officers, and they only had 4 on staff. When we were there, we encountered one person that we know was supposedly employed by the LBL, although I've got some questions about that. Just because the uniforms aren't matching up. But then again, there might be more than one uniform, or I haven't really spent a lot of time looking into that. But there was a lot of other branches and jurisdictions there. But now we're hearing that there's a lot more law enforcement presence at the LBL that's dedicated towards the LBL, is what we're hearing right now. And that's kind of weird because their budget has been slashed so much. So
yeah, unless something has occurred to cause them to get an influx of money
specifically for that purpose. Because I'm going to tell you, even though there was a pretty penny dropped on the hog hunt, the infrastructure still nothing's being addressed there for it.
No.
So it's weird that they're getting money, and if they're getting money, that it's going towards an armed presence and then these hog eradications. But everything else is still just crumbling around their ears.
Yeah, I know that Jonestead Farm was in the LBL with Barton Nunley this over the past couple of days. I wanted to know, is Piney Campground still closed down? I'm curious about that, because that's where we saw those possible Park Service employees from other states coming in.
Yeah, and it's weird too.
It was closed down, but we had people from other states going into Piney, and it looks like they were coming in for the long haul for a while.
Yeah. All right.
North Central Ohio Paranormal says Ron Moorhead described to Polites the metallic sound was like a tuning fork coming from the sky at the Sierra camp, along with the light moving through the forest after recording the strange voices. So again, this is going back to the combination of these strange metallic sounds and these lights that are unexplained moving through the forest. As you guys have seen, we've experienced these lights multiple times. And it's weird how the phenomenon seems to go hand in hand. We've heard what could be sounding like Bigfoot activity, but we're really not sure. We're not sure what it is. Yeah. But it's gone hand in hand with these lights before.
And the weird, if you guys remember that recorder we left out around that weird tree, we had that weird kind of, was it like humming, like almost like
I
a
say it's
weird,
a metallic whir.
a metallic whir. I mean, that sounds metallic. It doesn't sound like interference. It doesn't sound like
It sounds like machinery.
we've function tested the recorder. We can't duplicate that. I've even ran the risk of just ruining it and just dropped some moisture on it. It was dry when we got back, and I'm thinking, all right, maybe there's a chance that some water got in it and caused that. We can't replicate it. And it's kind of a metallic whir. So you've got the slamming noise, you've got the metallic rattling, you've got the metallic whirring, and now you've got like a tuning fork. But the I guess the defining and the similar factor between all of those is that people describe it as metallic. So there you go.
MK Ultra and Hiking and Gear Review. We're glad you're okay, safe and sound. You made it through the portal okay. You already just hired a full-time archaeologist. That's cool. I would like to know what they say about the possible petroglyphs. Have you seen the petroglyph that is allegedly of a dogman-like creature there, MK Ultra? I'd like to know that. And I'd like to know if they're going to assess that possible petroglyph.
And you can't find much on there. What we're talking about is there are some petroglyphs supposedly in the Uwari that show dog-headed, upright, like humanoid figures. And this isn't really the best environment for petroglyphs. You mostly see those out in the Southwest. Here, with the amount of rainfall and everything like that, the rock facings get weathered pretty quickly. But we heard Joshua Cutchin talking about that once. Joshua Cutchin's an author who's written some books that we find very influential. Thieves in the Night, which ties in a lot with like alien abductions and fairy abductions from lore. It's one of my favorite books. But anyway, he mentioned that doing some research on his own, he had found these petroglyphs, and we haven't really been able to find out too much other than that. Now, Joshua Cutchins is an extremely detail-oriented researcher, so I'm sure it's buried somewhere. I just haven't heard anybody else say anything about it.
Well, we saw part of MK Ultra's video, and he had that dog-headed
thing. I don't know what the origin
story behind that was.
Yeah.
Barton Nunley says, we were approached by a law enforcement officer Saturday at Hotel California. First time that's ever happened to me. Yeah, our prior visits to the LBL, we have not seen anybody. We have not seen anybody, any sort of authority whatsoever. And we were all up and down the peninsula for days and days and days and days. We had never seen the amount of law enforcement or federal forces that we saw the last time we went to the LBL. So something is certainly afoot. I don't know if they just... It's weird to think that they got just an instant influx of money and now we've hired all of these people
just out of the blue.
But we saw evidence of people coming in from other areas, possibly.
From other states, definitely.
Yeah, possibly other employees of the Forest Service who have been brought in to kind of get a handle on something. I don't know. It just seems very odd. It seems very odd. And I don't know if there's any coincidences here or not.
Shadowlack 77. Have y'all ever considered getting PVS 14 night vision or something similar? We kind of went towards full spectrum cams just for recording, full spectrum action cams, and then thermal is what if we're only carrying a couple of things, that's what we're going to carry. The psionics we had kind of just relegated back to really not using that much. That's that full color night vision. That's like that weird, it's not quite second generation. It's definitely not third generation, but that was so useful with the Brown Mountain lights. We kind of were looking to eventually kind of upgrade that to maybe the latest psionics. We've talked about that in the past, trying to get the Psionics Pro. PVS 14s would be really helpful. A, it's a couple extra steps to be able to record off of them. B, obviously they've got some light sensitivity. So
are those the ones that you can burn out?
Yeah, you can burn out with lights and stuff like that. So, and then let's just be honest, the overwhelming factor on those is the cost. Night vision, real good Gen 3 is not cheap. We've always had something else we needed to spend the money on. So I could see down the road, maybe.
Also, I would be very concerned about taking something that expensive out into the woods, and we're pretty rough on stuff.
Yeah, well, it's durable. They're made to bang around like that.
Yeah.
But it's down the road, we'll probably get one. But right now, we've had other holes in our our toolbox that we've tried to fill. And now as we get those filled up, yeah, I could see down the road doing that.
Yeah.
So.
Letitia followed up on my question about Piney Campground. I'm not positive about Piney. We didn't check it out, but the website says it's open. Jonesstead Farm also followed up on that and said that they didn't go down that far, but they think it may be open now. Finding the Trackway says it's like the humming of an electrical transformer. I agree with that. That's if you're talking about the recording we got on Supernatural Predators, that episode of Hellbent Holler, it sounds like a humming of an electrical transformer. I feel like it kind of like picks up and goes into a higher pitch at one point in the recording. But I will tell you right now that it is nowhere near any sort of power lines. No. It's nowhere near any sort of road. It's the only sort of transportation that would go anywhere near there is planes that fly overhead. And those have a very distinct sound to them. We catch those all the time because the planes will fly overhead, you know. But yeah, it was very strange. And it seems like it kicks up into a higher pitch later on in the recording.
What the flock rolls in. All right. With the flock coming in with some B-52 lyrics there. So Ghetto Yeti's talking about they're saying they're doing hog eradication. Definitely would make me think that gunshots would be quite frequent. So it's good cover itself, especially here in Texas. I am sure that there has been some sort of hog eradication that's taken place. Well, I can't say that I'm sure. The idea that some sort of hog eradication would take place in the LBL is not outside the realm of possibility.
No, we saw hog sign there. We saw it near Cedar Pond. We saw that where they had been rooting around and tearing up the land. So there's obviously a presence of wild hogs there. So it's not out of the realm of possibility that they are doing a hog eradication.
But it was the way that it was being done. It was just the overall
severity
of it. The fact that they had already removed 350 hogs supposedly, and the problem was fixed, and then they were just going at it hardcore with explosions, gunshots, helicopters, blacked out helicopters at night, law enforcement supposedly from several states. The LBL locals were actually handling perimeter security and weren't quite sure what was going on inside. Nobody was quite sure who was doing the eradication. Nobody was sure where the helicopters came from. Nobody was sure what the explosions were for.
And we weren't sure why there's a helicopter blacked out in the middle of the night. That was a little odd. That's a little out of character for a hog eradication operation. MK Ultra Hiking and Gear Review, following up on the petroglyph talk in the Uwari, he goes, "No, I've heard about that, though. I will make it my quest for the year. Yeah, I've seen them in Arizona before. Next episode, I will explore the portal world." So, yeah, if you could see if you can find out anything about that petroglyph, we're eventually going to go up to the Uwari and check it out. We might have to use MK Ultra for a day as a bit of a guide. I think that would be a lot of fun to do.
Paramedic has called for a knife check.
Knife check.
We've actually had sheath knives we pulled off before we got on. We are carrying vintage cold steel Tantos right now.
Chris, he's got the big one and I got the
tiny one. But these are the old Japanese made cold steel Tantos that kind of put cold steel on the market. Awesome knives.
Yeah, they're beautiful. Yeah. I got you that one, and I think when I got it for you, you said you took it out, and of course, every time Joe gets a new knife, he pulls it out and runs around the house.
Got to do the air swings, man.
You swinging it around, so you have to kind of get some distance from him, lest you lose a
You
finger.
Should have seen it back when I was in like Western martial arts and all that, and I had a ton of swords in the house. Like every ceiling and every room, just cut all to hell. You know what I'm saying? You just get carried away, man. You can't help it. So,
but I remember I got you that knife, and you were doing your running around the house, swiping through the air thing, and you're like, it just feels alive in your hand.
Feels alive. Keith asked also, what is skyquakes are, and is that why the government says it's just atmospheric sounds? The skyquake phenomenon was really weird because that came out of nowhere. It got really popular. There were some legit videos online that you could find of people experiencing that. You would have multiple people from one area coming out going with the same sound that they heard that was just completely inexplicable. And then a couple of things happened. I think it got to be popular. So people were faking it And then B, it seemed like some of the fakes were really good. And I was going, are some of these being done by like the powers to be to kind of, and now you still get reports of them, but that's just kind of, it's not as popular as it once was. But there are still reports of people hearing those like sky quakes, sky trumpets.
Yeah, I was wondering, is the sky trumpet phenomenon, is that supposed to be the angels trumpeting the apocalypse?
That was one of the, you would heard alien invasion, the signs of the apocalypse, all sorts of stuff on it. So
KO says, just finished the last live that I missed, and the latest episode of Synchronicity for me was Joe talking about the Dawdleston messages, which I was talking about just last week. That's such a fascinating story. Yeah, we talked about that last week. That's where that they were in this old house, and this guy brought a computer home from his job, and this is in the early days of computers, and he started receiving these cryptic strange messages from possibly another time, another era, or another dimension, right?
Yeah, well, that was supposed to be from like, I want to say it was the 15th or 16th century. Supposedly these messages were coming through. But yeah, it's really weird. It's just one of those things that just, it's a very unique kind of case. That, to have.
Did they ever do anything with that on Coast to Coast?
I believe they had a message for it. There's I can't remember if I know I heard about it somewhere else, just randomly surfing. It was one of those things that you just don't really quite hear about. There's a book called The Vertical Plane that is about the Dawdleston messages and some thoughts of the phenomenon. But I think they had it on Coast to Coast. I can't remember.
Because it just reminds me of, when they do the time traveler type stories. It's hard to say, would that be considered a time traveler type instance, or would that be considered a ghost?
Like a ghost in the machine?
A ghost in the machine? Or is that like a time traveler thing? Or is it both?
I don't know. So
I guess like a haunting in a way could be considered time travel in a way, because you're transgressing time and space at that point.
Yeah.
So being a disembodied spirit, which you don't believe in, a haunting somewhere, I guess, would that be considered time traveling in a way?
I don't know, possibly.
Because you are from another time and you're existing in like a current time.
How many stories are there, though, where people have reported, hey, I was swept away to this strange land where people were, and then the story enters like the, common knowledge, and then years later we go, holy crap, this matches up with exactly what's going on in 2023 right now. So
I mean, we could say that about fairy lore and UAP encounters and stuff like that.
Yeah. Deuster says that they heard a metal door either open or close in northern LBL about 3 weeks ago. Woods got deadly quiet. So
Marcus Aurelius says LBL is becoming so well known and notorious that it makes sense that Black Protect Feds.
Black Project, probably.
Oh, Black Project Feds. Okay.
Would be upping their
presence there. Yeah, we were discussing this a couple of days ago. We were riding around and we were discussing this a couple of days ago. We're almost to the edge of concern that we're not going to be able to go back to the LBL
for a while.
For a long time.
So
because of the presence there. And I don't know
especially if we're on radar right now, which it appears to be to a certain extent we were.
Yeah.
Because of certain things. But
and that sucks.
Yeah, it sucks. I mean, we've got another, if we, like we've often said, if we do go again, nobody's going to know about it until we're out of there. So,
yeah. But we're very distinct looking people. Yeah. So if there's been a bulletin out or something.
Be in disguise, man.
Oh, I forgot about the disguises. Yeah,
we shave, put the Groucho Marx glasses on. You wear a wig.
Mm-hmm.
So
I'll be a blonde.
Stephen Taylor has a good point. It's illegal to hunt feral hogs in the LBL. And the reason why they told you is that the feral hogs in the LBL, one gunshot will make the rest of the hogs scatter and be impossible to catch. But that certainly was not the case with all the gunshots and the explosions. Now, obviously, if they've got them in an open area, that helicopter could really come into effect. And especially if they're using thermal imagers to hunt with, which I'm sure they were. But whatever that private hunting outfit was that nobody was quite sure who they were, boy, they had access to some gear there, didn't they?
Yeah, so, for sure.
Helicopters, dog teams, everything like that. So, and when I say dog teams, not like a couple of good old boys with some dogs that they've trained up to go hogging. When we're talking like
I don't think they call it hogging.
Yeah, so well, it is now. So
I think that's I think that's a dirty term. I think
So anyway,
that's something frat boys do on the weekends.
Yeah.
Raj Morris says, do you think that the lights could be portals? I've seen a light that moved from one side of our property to the other, and the sounds I heard sounds like the recording on 411 The Hunted. I think there's a possibility that the lights could be different things. I think that some of them could be portals and some of them could be entities themselves. But last night we were watching the UFO thing from Showtime, I believe it was,
Mhm.
and we watched that footage from Canada. It was what part of BC was it?
BC.
But there was this light that went right through it went from the sky and it went right into the woods. And he's gonna find it right now because he looked it up last night. But it looks exactly like the light that we captured in a burning light, but it's actually moving. The one we captured was stationary and then it rose slowly, but it really reminded us of the light that we captured in a burning light.
Yeah, and but let's back up here for a moment because while I get this, Raj says, I've seen a light that moves from one side of our properties to the other, and the sounds I heard sounds the recording on 411 The Hunted. Are you talking about the Sierra sounds with Are you
Oh,
hearing Sierra sounds on your property? Like the sounds that
I thought he was talking about like metallic type sounds.
I don't know. Well, I mean, the sounds I heard, the sounds on the recording, they play the Sierra sounds on Missing 411 The Hunted. Is that what you're hearing? Are you hearing like stuff like the Sierra sounds or stuff like the metallic?
Because if you're hearing samurai chatter along with like
that's a whole
orb type activity, that's a whole other kettle of fish, right?
Mm-hmm. What was pretty cool is open.
Oh, you got the video?
I want to try to, yeah, here, hold on. I'm not doing the video. I'm just going to do there was a, what's crazy is that we're obviously super into this topic. We've talked about in the past, we weren't really into UFOs, but now because of the similarities with the stuff that we were interested in researching,
it's almost like we were dragged kicking and screaming into UFOs.
And now we've had to play a lot of catch up, but we've tried to catch up. We've spent a lot of time trying to catch up. And people always go, well, there's no UFOs because if there were, we would have more footage on them. And we're going, there's a ton of footage out there. I mean, there's a stuff that we see constantly. And
well, what is a UFO? Unidentified aerial phenomenon, like a UAP, is an unidentified aerial phenomenon. Wouldn't an orb floating in the sky be considered a UFO, UAP?
Absolutely. And what's crazy is that
so Joe is sharing right now.
These people in Squamish, Canada, I think it's like British Columbia, caught this light going through the woods, and I'm going, it's shot on night vision. What you're seeing there, they caught this thing going through like the treetops. Now, this is shot on like standard night vision, so that has that green tint to it. It is extremely similar to what we saw with our naked eye when we saw that burning light.
Yeah.
And theirs comes into the treetops and then seems like it goes down. Ours was near the ground and then went up through the treetops until we lost it. But as soon as we saw this, I went, that's extremely similar.
Very similar. And it looks almost similar in size in a way too, doesn't it?
So
from what we can tell by the size of it.
One of the things we're going to look into is get this Squamish UFO story a little bit more. So David Holly, how are you, sir? Have you heard what sounds like a human baby crying? We've heard, if you're in the woods, obviously, Dave, foxes can sound odd. We've been in areas where we thought we heard like mountain lions scream. Deer can even make weird noises. We've heard kind of like the woman wailing noise before and the woman screaming noise before that didn't seem like a normal fox or big cat. We have never heard the human baby crying before.
No,
never.
We heard that what did you describe it? The banshee noise.
We heard the banshee noise that time, just that rising and falling that almost sounded like a siren. But we've never heard the human baby crying before, and that's something that's commonly reported. Of course, people have conjecture that it's to kind of draw you into the woods.
Yeah.
People go, "Oh my Lord, there's a baby out here in the woods. We've got to go save it." And then you're pulled into the woods for whatever nefarious reason. But we have not. If anybody has actually heard with their own ears that human baby crying noise, speak up in the chat. I'd like to hear about it. So.
Lady Wolf says, Jesse and Joe, Can there be underground wiring, almost like they run Verizon cable lines here in Jersey? When it's wet, you hear humming. Military bases, underground lines, maybe. So that's why we also carry a device to check for frequencies, radio frequencies, to see if there's any kind of communication lines or anything like that. We've really not gotten any spikes in activity in a lot of these places that's consistent.
Yeah. Now in the LBL, there is some sort of underground stuff going on there. We have caught in the LBL, we have caught weird RF activity that kind of backs up. We caught RF. How do I want to phrase this? We were able to use our instrumentation to document some stuff that really backs up what Bart Nunley has been talking about with the recent revelations he's had on his channel that really point to there being some hidden electrical activity going on there, and then also possibly might point towards underground activity going on there. Kind of danced around that a little bit, but yeah, I think that there's not supposed to be anything there in the underground on the LBL, but there appears to be something underground in the LBL.
Well, and so talk about North Georgia, the area that we got that sound that's a metallic whir, that metallic humming. We know there's no underground wiring or anything like that there.
But there are rumors that there's some sort of underground activity there.
There's rumors of
the
cave systems and something happening down there.
Well, there's rumors that the Native Americans used to talk about fire-breathing devils, and that's how that's described over and over and over again. There's no official name for them in Cherokee lore, but they talked about fire-breathing devils that came from underground. And there's people that we have spoken to that are witnesses to some of that occult activity that we've talked about, that say they're coming and going from out of the ground there, that there's a particular spot where there's an underground entrance. Now that's a whole nother level of complexity. That means that they've had to go there and either expand on a cave system or hide a cave system or do something like that. I mean, that's a pretty organized group with some pretty deep pockets and pretty decent resources, but it matches up to the legends that have taken place in that area for hundreds of years.
Yeah. And then we went out there, we were exploring around one day, and we remember when our one of our feet fell through that hole?
We found
like underground tunnels, but they're small. They're very small. They're like 4 feet high, inside. So kind of dug down and broke into the tunnel, and it was like 4 feet high inside, and it went both directions. We didn't go into it because we're not inside cave people.
Yeah, we found that twice, and that does match up with these things are not supposed to be very, very big.
Yeah.
And that also matches up with people keep telling us, oh, you're dealing with Sasquatch up there. And I'm going, well, where are the big ones at?
Yeah.
It's juvenile. All right, where are the parents at? So it's just been only, I mean, you've got like a Sasquatch Lost Boys.
I was about to say, you got like a Peter Pan situation.
Yeah, where they just never get any older, any bigger. I just don't think it's Sasquatch up there. I think that whatever is up there matches up with what the Cherokee reported, with the Cherokee little people in those mountains. And the footprints we found were small. None of the, if you want to give any credence to tree structures, none of them were that small. Everything points towards something that is smaller than like a typical human up there.
This is in reference to the LBL. Burning Gannon says, wouldn't it seem unlikely that a conspiracy involving federal, state, and locals would be hard to keep tight, keep secrets? When he said locals, he didn't mean like local civilians. He meant local people who work at the LBL.
And actually on that, being out there and watching all of this kind of struck home for us how easy it would be. We talked about it on the last live stream. There was a general sense of, I don't know what's going on. I was told to be here and do this, and that's what I'm doing. I just want to get off and go home.
It's a compartmentalization.
It's very compartmentalized. And, you know, Jesse had mentioned too that, so we were wiped out the other night. We don't watch a lot of television, but we were watching the Showtime UFO program. And they were talking about how for decades, pilots and, you know, naval members serving on like ships and Air Force personnel were having these experiences with these, and I'm going to call them UAPs as opposed to UFOs, and I'll touch upon that in a moment why. But how people were going, I'm seeing it, but don't report it. They even played the Chicago O'Hare UFO incident.
Yes.
Remember that? Where one of the air traffic controllers was calling a supervisor because there were people reporting seeing a black disc above one of the runways, and they've got the radio traffic. And this guy goes, no, he's laughing, and he goes, I haven't seen it. And if I did see it, I wouldn't admit to it.
Yeah.
And I'm going to recommend you don't either. It's right there. So
you can see the attitude towards these things, that
exactly.
even if they did witness this, that they would say, nope, I didn't see it. I want nothing to do with this, because it's, in the end, it's going to be more hassle and ridicule than it's worth.
Yeah. And I think that people often go, well, the government doesn't have enough resources to scare everybody into being quiet. They don't need it. They don't need the resources to do that.
They just need the resources to scare and terrify one person.
And then the social pressure as well. I mean, a lot of people, I mean, come on, man. Everybody in this chat is into weird stuff. You don't get a certain level of pressure in your life from like normal people. Now imagine all of a sudden, if you are somebody who's in an extremely high pressure job, you're a police officer, you're an air traffic controller, anything like that. And you're coming forward with a crazy story that might have professional repercussions on you. Yeah, you want to get the truth out, but you also want your kids to eat and you want your mortgage to get paid.
Yeah.
So when I heard that last night, we were watching that show, I went, that's how, I don't even think it's a cover up, because there's nothing it's not exposed and then you're covering it up. It just stays hidden because of the social pressures. One of the things that really kind of dawned on me as I look at the UFO stuff and how so much stuff has come out, all of the videos, the naval videos, the actual witnesses, they've come out, and there's still such a large segment of the population that's just so insultingly dismissive over it. They just laugh at it, and you're an idiot, and you're, this and this. And I'm going, this is how good of a job the government did for all of those years, reinforcing the standard response from modern society. This is how well that's how well they were successful, is that basically started the ball rolling, and then the inertia just kept it rolling all on its own. They didn't really have to do much more of that. They don't have to silence you, because your neighbors and your friends and your family are doing that job pretty damn well themselves.
Yeah.
So
social enforcement. Marcus Aurelius says,
hey,
and thank you for that super chat.
Yeah.
There's been numerous correlations between unknown light activity and cryptid encounters back to the 1960s. It's difficult to untangle the two entirely per documented sightings.
Because I don't think you can entangle the two. I think the two are so entangled, and I think that you're right. I think it goes back even further than the 1960s. I think that if you go back and I sound like a broken record sometimes, that there's a direct correlation between a lot of the fairy lore, fairy tales, in their original form. Don't follow the strange light into the woods, fairy glamour, this nimbus, this light that they seem to just admit on their own. Will-o-wisps, jack-o'-lantern, all of this stuff ties into basically what you're seeing right now. You have alien abductions talk about how everything was illuminated, but I couldn't quite see the light source. Orbs, everything like that. And that kind of touches upon something I wanted to talk about, is that we keep kind of bouncing back and forth between UFO and UAP. UFO is unidentified flying object. Okay. An object. Has tangible. It has mass and matter. It's an object. UAP is unidentified aerial phenomenon. A phenomenon doesn't necessarily have to be a solid object. It might be intangible. It might be it might be intangible. It's just, so it's weird, because I was kind of going, for this, I know that they're trying to change the language to kind of leave some of that UFO stigma in the past, but I think UAP is probably a better description for at least what we've seen. Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know if that light in North Georgia was solid, or if it was a portal or just a light. I don't know if the Brown Mountain lights didn't seem to behave like a solid object in the sky, at least the ones that we saw.
No, not any that abide by our physics. What the Flock follows up with some of that. This pertains to it. We're kind of jumping around the chat here because there's a lot here. But he says, I also think some of the lights y'all are seeing has something to do with the cult activity that they're actually summoning. So they're summoning something from another place.
You take the stone rings, the triangles that we're finding. And again, we weren't the ones who came up with this cult activity stuff.
No.
We ought to actually try to have that witness on one night to see if she'd be willing to speak, the main one.
That would be very interesting.
If she would be interested in doing it.
That's how we first got the real cult angle, is when she started talking to us about this whole thing.
And then we started finding stuff that backed that story up.
Yeah.
And started looking at some of the secondary kind of information we found in there, all points to what they told us. Because trust me, when we first heard this, we were both going, what? This is getting crazy. now there's like cult activity up there. And then we're just kind of going, yeah, there seems like there's cult. And trust me, we understand how crazy that is. We're not people that just want to throw everything in. You know, it's much easier to kind of swallow yourself if it's just one thing you're dealing with.
Yeah.
You know, Bigfoot is strange enough to deal with without anything else with it.
But now you have like a litany of phenomenon that
and
you're
then you
dealing
got
with.
all you sound unbelievable to even people that are into this stuff. And
But you
we're
also
aware.
have to present the idea that not only is all this phenomenon happening, but it's a possibility that all this phenomena is working together.
Or it's related, or one is causing the other. And at the same token, we understand that it sounds a little out there, but at the same flip side, we're just following what we find. You know what I'm saying? And if somebody told us this, I thought it was too outlandish to be true. And then we start finding stuff to back it up. So I agree with you 100% that I think that, are they summoning something? I don't know. That sounds crazy to me. But there are weird lights in areas that ritualistic activity is taking place. Is the ritualistic activity just drawn there, and the ritualistic activity is not having any effect on any of it, but it's just drawn there because they have experienced this stuff and they're
Right.
trying to commune with it, and they're
It's a
unsuccessful?
paranormal and a cold chicken or the egg.
Yeah, exactly. But we can't deny that it's going on in the same spot. It's maybe proximity is the only commonality between it. Maybe it just,
But it keeps
happens.
happening over and
and
over
over
and
and
over,
over
and it
again,
keeps
so-
happening in different locations. We're talking about different geographic locations where you're seeing the common thread here, that you have occult activity and then you have paranormal activity, and this is
And-
happening over and over in different locations.
Because trust me, I know how it sounds. I mean, I have people that are dedicated Bigfoot researchers that are looking at me just going, really, dude? Are you not? You're just kind of shoehorning this in? And I'm going, how am I shoehorning this in? How is she shoehorning this in? We're finding, same token, we're not finding Bigfoot sign up there. We're finding other stuff. But there is a human element to it that I don't know how it's related, or even if it's related at all yet. And then obviously that adds a level of complexity and difficulty in researching that area, because now you're dealing with people too. So anyway,
Kaiju Ninja 1985, following up on this portal conversation, Kaiju Ninja 1985 says, if these cryptids are using portals, why do you think they're appearing in forests as opposed to civilization? Also, do you think they are creating the portals, or is something releasing them? You could think about it with what we just said about the occult activity possibly using these portals as summoning devices, or they're the result of them summoning and bringing these things through. Joe mentions all the time, why is it that you don't have a Sasquatch showing up in the middle of Times Square? Why is that? Why does the phenomenon want to hide itself? Why is it selective about who it shows itself to and who it presents itself to in a way? Why is it like that? Why does it do
what's going on
this?
when there's nobody around to witness it?
Yeah.
A
And
lot
then
of
you could say you could put out 300 trail cams and then you would see it. But there's, the phenomenon's intelligent. It's obviously way beyond our pay grade.
There's
here.
some sort of intelligent, and it's stretched back to John Keel. John Keel talked about how UFO activity used to take place in sparsely populated areas at the time of night where most people would be in bed. But there would just be a few people out to see it. And I'm going, well, that's just what's seen. What's happening out there where there's nobody? What's going on in that spot in North Georgia right now with us not there to witness it? Okay. What is happening up there? We obviously know that stuff was going on from the audio recorders that we left when we moved out of an area. So what's happening up there?
Well, what's wild to think about that is you and I went to that area where we captured that burning light. We went there on a whim. We don't usually go there. We had never gone there prior to that day. We had never gone there prior to that day. And we just, on a whim, we were actually on our way out, and you said, let's go up here. Let's go check this out. And I had to like back the car up, pull over. And then we just went up there without hardly any of our equipment.
Yeah, we had
which is very
to scout it, which is so unlike
very unlike us to scout a completely new location at that during the evening hours, during the nighttime hours. That is so out of character for us, because I'm really good with direction. I'm good at navigating the forest, but I really need to kind of get out there during the day, get a lay of the land and figure it out. That's why we always do daytime scouting missions. And we just on a whim decided to go up there. So I think that, I don't know if it was serendipitous or a coincidence. Again, there are no coincidences.
Well, for that rules out the possibility of somebody hoaxing us, because
Yeah, that's what. Yeah, of course, because
That's
we had never been there before,
and we went just
and we
on a
went there on
whim.
an actual just whim, like
Yeah.
it popped in our head to go to
Mhm.
just pull over at that spot and hike up through those woods there.
Yeah.
So nobody's hoaxing us because we've never been there before. We don't have a pattern of
And
going
there's
there.
nobody else up there at night. There's just there's no chance that was a hoax. There's no chance that we misidentified a common light source. I can't say what it was, but I can say what it wasn't. So why are they appearing in forests as opposed to civilization? I think it's because obviously there's a concerted effort to remain as undetected as possible. Maybe what we're seeing on the fringes of like civilization out in the woods is just the tip of the iceberg of what's going on. Maybe there's so much more going on that no one is there to witness. So maybe we're just occasionally getting lucky and capturing something. We always talk about the fact that we go out, just the two of us. We go out the two of us with equipment to try to capture what we see. I think that if we were out with a large group of like 10 to 20 people, I think our chances of catching stuff goes down exponentially with every person you add to that group. Do we think that they're creating the portals or something's releasing them? There has to be some sort of intelligent control to keep these things from happening in more populated areas and in hours where more people would be around. Agreed?
Agreed.
So there has to be, are they guiding them? Are they in charge, like complete control of them? I don't know, but there's some sort of intelligent control to this. If you look at the missing 411 phenomenon, where David Paulides has gone into the fact that some of these missing cases are caused by some sort of portal activity. Either the people are stumbling into portals, something's coming out of a portal and grabbing them. Again, that's intelligently controlled. You have that point of separation.
Yeah.
I turned my head for a second, I turned back, and he was gone, and he's never been found. It's not, I was standing there watching him and a portal opened up and something grabbed him. It always happens at that point of separation, which means it's almost like something is either waiting in the wings, waiting for that point of separation to occur, and then it's just in a blink of an eye grabbing somebody,
or it knows it's going to happen.
Exactly right. There's some sort of prescience going on.
Yeah.
They're know ahead of time that this is going to be where I am. Just like a hunter is staking out a watering hole, I know this is where I'm going to be able to catch my game at.
Yeah.
Maybe it's several steps beyond that. It knows that at this place and this time there's going to be a separation, and that's where I'm going to be able to grab what I'm.
I mean, human behavior is not completely unpredictable, so that's a possibility.
If you're an intelligence that's several orders of magnitude greater than us, maybe what is random chance to us is completely predictable to you.
Yeah. So. Tony Campagna says cult activity in the woods always sounds so cliche. I was hearing these stories back in the 70s.
It's probably going on back in the 70s.
Who are these people?
There are people who, let's take Corpsewood Manor, for example, which we've talked about in the past. There are people, I mean, again, you've got I always call them the bored kind of like rural teenage satanists. You know what I'm saying? You know, they just listen to a little bit too much Slayer and they, get stuff out of like D&D.
And a lot of times that's where you go somewhere and you find all that satanic graffiti.
You can tell we've caught stuff that just looks like teenage ramblings, and then we've caught stuff that seems more sophisticated. Take Linda Godfrey and her research into the Beast of Bray Road and the animal control officer. That everybody's familiar with that story. She goes to the animal control officer to follow up with some of the accounts, and he's got a file folder labeled werewolf. Well, this guy, that same animal control officer, will talk about pretty sophisticated, extremely organized satanic activity taking place. And he even talks about some of these people were older. Some of these people were more affluent. They were coming in from other areas. It happens. It happens. I think it's difficult for a lot of people to really think is possible because it's taken kind of an element of just like outlandishness to it.
Mm-hmm.
Hey man, I think that the satanic panic that took place in the 80s was really going on to a great degree, and it was covered up. There was that church in Louisiana that they used to base the first season of True Detective on. Remember that?
Yes.
That was operating in plain sight, and that was just basically devil worship that was hidden by a Christian church down there, and there was a lot of child abuse that was going on.
It's commonly known. I mean, it's commonly known and accepted that there is that there has been and will continue to be a small satanic cabal within even our government.
And we can't really talk about that too much because we'll get banned again. But
Sin bin.
yeah, so let's not talk about that. But and guess what? If you think that's impossible, that's fine. We see a lot of stuff seems like it has a level of organization to it. And why does ritual like this survive into 21st century America? It does. It survives on several different levels. Whether you're going to talk about, and again, you can't really talk about a lot of this without getting political or catching a shadow ban, but it exists, and I think it's existed for a long time,
and it'll continue to exist.
I always talk about how when I was a kid growing up, where I grew up at, it was a rural area, and it was kind of growing out a little bit on the sides. The area is expanding out, and there was a story in our local paper one Halloween talking about why did our area have such a huge level of occult activity? And there was a black and white photo of this person in a robe holding something in their hand. I can't remember what it was, but talked about all of the occult activity that took place around us. That was verified by law enforcement. There were people who were engaged in, and these were adults, these weren't kids, they were engaged in organized and sometimes multi-generational, passed from parents to child, occult activity.
Yeah.
Now they tied it all into just basically standard satanic activity, devil worshipers. But I think that there's a lot of stuff that goes on that doesn't worship. They don't openly state that they're worshiping the Christian devil.
Right.
Whether that's what they're worshiping in reality or not, I don't know.
They're talking about Quipswood Manor. Stingray's gonna Stinger 1975. I told Jesse and Joe I'd set up base camp at Quipswood with my Jeep to watch their vehicle. I'll keep a grill going and a cooler of beer.
So yeah, we eventually want to go back there, and that's a lot to ask somebody to do that. It's a haul for us. Like I said, we drove 5-6 hours.
Yeah.
And we're only on the ground for a little while until we ran into that car of people. And that's when I'm like, I'm calling it. I mean, I don't want our vehicle to get disabled. Even if we could use the satellite communicator to call for help, we need a car to get back.
Yeah, Paul M follows up with not much left of Corpsewood anymore, but it is a weird place. Lots of sign of occult activity. Scariest thing though is wondering if your car is still going to be there in one piece when you return.
Even if it's just nothing supernatural at all, but it's just people with delusions that it's supernatural doing occult stuff. Our car is still destroyed, and we still got to get to work on Monday morning. So
yeah. So sorry for that. Hey, make sure you guys hit that like button since you guys are on here. Mm-hmm. And we're taking a little time to read through the chat a little bit here. And
would it kill you to hit the like button? Would it kill you to hit the like button? Just all you got to do is move your hand over a little bit, hit the button.
What the Flock says, I believe I have come close to being on that missing 411 list at least twice. Once was a point of separation, and another time I was solo. Thankfully, I have enough information to recognize the signs. I think it's really important that you are prepared for that too. I think that a lot of people who could have been victims of whatever the heck is going on with the missing 411 phenomenon, I think since David Paulides has shown a light on this, I think a lot of people are more aware of it when they go out in the woods. And it's probably kept a few people from being victims. I know it's probably kept us from being victims before, because you and I go out there and kind of act a little crazy, but we always have our personal locator beacon on us. We're always armed. We follow our Paulides rules of the road there. So, but yeah, I'm not surprised. I wouldn't be surprised if the fact that his books came out and became so wildly popular, and that series came out and it was so wildly popular, if that hadn't saved a few lives.
And that's one of the things that's really kind of, regardless of what you think about David Paulides personally, what you think of him as a researcher, if nothing else, you've got to give him credit that he has brought attention to some of this stuff, and that he really kind of stresses home, you don't go alone, go armed, carry a personal locator beacon, at least go prepared when you go out at this point. Because we've ran across people back when we used to do a lot more hiking. This is kind of taken over any sort of outdoor activities we do. We used to actually hike for fun too, just go on like regular trails and hike. And then we would do this some, and now it's every time we're in the woods, we're doing this sort of stuff. So we're not on regular hiking trails, but we've seen people out on regular hiking trails that were just like, you're 10 miles from, the trailhead right now, and you're in like flip flops and you don't have any water and the sun's setting and you're asking us directions, man. I mean, hopefully if even it's kind of trite if it even saves one life, but I mean, even if just a handful of people start taking that seriously, it's worth it. So.
This is pretty interesting. They're talking about occult activity and crimes and stuff. They were talking about that David Berkowitz, the son of Sam, was tied to occult activity, and they don't think he worked alone.
I didn't know that. I'm not a big serial killer person. So
Bernie Gannon follows up with in the Las Vegas sniper shooting a few years back, an exorcist was called to the scene where the shooter was. Allegedly, the staff was terrified to approach the floor where the shooter acted. That's an interesting tidbit. Joe's going to look that up right now and get a little more information on that. Jim Berthold says there's never too much Slayer.
Catholic exorcist Father John discusses the exorcist who was. Yeah, that's
wow.
What? Yeah, this is in church publications for it.
Save that.
Yeah, there are priest exorcists. Yeah, this is bizarre. After feeling an evil. Hey, thank you for bringing. This is what's so
bookmark that for me.
Cool about our chat is that you guys have gone beyond the talking about the weather and just saying hi to each other. Every week there is something
new and something interesting new. And something really cool that comes out of these chats. Yeah. Something that we spent a lot of time doing this stuff and stuff that we're like, what? We've never heard of that before.
And that's why I love it. Because I mean, there's when people who are dismissive of this and they're just skeptical just because skepticism seems to them to be the only sane response to this. I'm just like, you don't have all the information to make such a hard pronouncement because we don't have all the information to make any hard pronouncements.
No.
Because we are constantly finding stuff that's out there.
And we're changing our hypotheses as we get new information.
Look at how much weird stuff is out here. Two people who spend pretty much a good chunk of their day, every day of the week, with no days off hardly, consuming this stuff and looking for patterns and everything like that, constantly stumbles across stuff they've never heard before. So how could somebody who's dismissive of this and doesn't spend any time researching it come up with these extreme? How could they know I know what's going on.
Right.
I have it all figured out.
Jay Myers, I'm going to address this because you've typed this in a couple of times at this point. Have you seen that you now need a permit to film in a national park now? Yes. So before we went to the LBL, I contacted a couple of people and asked if we could film in the LBL, and I was given permission. I actually recorded those phone calls as well. But yes, we have permission to film inside of national parks and stuff. Now, when you go and do it, you have to have a permit. Usually your permit is free if you are just two people and one camera wandering around. So there are parameters about that. You can find that on the website for the National Park Service. They give you all the information there for how to get a permit. But yes, you need to get a permit. This is just for large productions. I think that's mostly to curb large productions going in and using public land for private gain and destroying the land, messing up traffic, messing up the property, messing up public lands just to film their documentary or whatever the heck they're doing.
But they have that out too, that if it's a small, like social, if you've got like some crazy Instagrammers there who want to climb on and do dig holes, maybe.
Dig holes.
So maybe they have that ability to crack down. Now, the other weird thing is that national recreation areas, that's what LBL is, are listed on that permitting thing. The LBL is not listed on the website.
It might be now.
It probably
after
is now.
all of this.
All this now. It's all those hole diggers. Seeker had mentioned who wants a Max Ace Vortex. That's a beautiful knife, man. If we weren't moving right now, I would discuss some price with you. But as it is right now, I'm on a knife moratorium buying anything.
Yeah, we need a house.
Yeah, so we're on a moratorium.
Yeah. Rick does Shotokan says punch the like button in the face and share the stream before Mothman chases you.
We chased off a few people last week because the chat got a little crazy, and I'm sure that there were some people who tuned in just knowing us from the LBL stuff. because we lost a few subscribers after that, but that's okay because again, the ones that are left are stronger for it. But yeah, if you guys can share it, do whatever you can.
It's the hardcore.
Try to combat the natural weirdness that comes along with these live streams.
Denny Kopic says, any recent news on the UFO shoot downs? I have not heard anything. Have you heard anything?
No, and if anybody's got anything, are you at the bottom of the chat?
No, sir. I'm almost there.
So no, that's something we made an offhanded comment that we were witnessing a modern version of Roswell happen in real time when all this stuff went down. And that's exactly what it's turned into. So the first one was a Chinese weather balloon.
Yeah.
And no one was saying that the next three things were weather balloons.
No.
They were saying that they were something different that they wouldn't have seen, but they changed the instrumentation settings in order to pick up balloons. And then, wow, we're finding this stuff now too.
So they got, one of them was described as cylindrical, metallic, and slow moving, and the size of a small car. So what, there is not, like, that's not a weather balloon, you know?
Well, there was a story that briefly came out saying that we had used a $400,000 missile to shoot down a high school science classes like weather experiment. And they showed this little Mylar balloon with this extremely small light instrumentation at the bottom of it. And that story came out and you saw a few people like me going, is that enough to trigger a missile going off? I mean, a missile needs to hit something fairly solid in order to detonate. This is basically, it's so small and intangible, it really wouldn't register with this. And then that story just disappeared. And then I think they gave up trying to explain it away because they didn't need to explain it away. Because other than people like us, nobody is talking about that anymore. So you talk about that cover-up. How can a cover-up happen? There's no way they could cover all this up. They don't need to. Nobody's talking about this anymore. No one is talking about it anymore. Hardly any UFO people they're all just back to bitching about Luis Elizondo and saying he's a disinformation agent. Nobody's talking about it anymore. So at this point, remember they gave us the excuse that the weather was too bad. It was raining or snowing or something. And I'm going, freaking United States military. They can't operate in cold weather all of a sudden for something that, and you know,
war's closed, folks.
War's closed. But it's no, nothing's happened. Nothing's happened. I haven't seen anything for it. And I'm checking periodically and nobody's talking about it. And I guarantee you a very large portion of the population, you would, if you mentioned it, you would have to really remind them as to what the hell you were talking about with it.
Kind of going into this cover up thing, and that it's right in front of your face, but there's a cover up sort of in a way, but it's also right in front of your face. Ghetto Yeti comes back to this occult thing. Of all the places I've seen occult activity, Corpse Ridge Manor seems the most sophisticated and legit. CERN, JPL, that's with Parsons, and MK Ultra, all science backed and successful. So yeah, so you have things like the like Jack Parsons, and all of them. They were funded by the government, but they were known occultists, you know, and that was part of their practice. And a lot of times it got in the way. But MK Ultra was a CIA op. And they used occult stuff in that. They used occult techniques.
I've had people tell me
techniques.
I've had people tell me that this idea is just, it's ridiculous and I'm unsophisticated. I'm sorry, man. There's nothing anybody can tell me about that ritual that was filmed at CERN. Oh, it was just a joke. I also take several of my friends into deserted, dark courtyards when I think that no one else is around
at work,
and play jokes like that as well. That's what I do all the time, especially on something as sensitive as CERN. I mean, you'd get fired from McDonald's for doing that.
Yeah.
Let alone CERN. And it's just, if it was a joke, then why wasn't it done in the middle of the day? Anything. It's just, so we're going to do it in the night where there's nobody around to see it. Doesn't make sense. Now, there's something else that comes up here that it's way back in the chat. Brings to mind that it's theorized that Nikola Tesla was the first to pick up transmissions from the Black Knight satellite orbit, a theory that it's been in orbit for 15,000 years. For those of you who aren't familiar with the Black Knight satellite, that is supposedly a something that's in orbit around the Earth, that is a satellite that you hear various stories about. It gives off particular signals. It's supposedly telepathically communicated with people. It's been debunked as like debris from one of the like shuttle launches or like part of a heat shield. I've never seen a sufficient debunking of it. It might be that it's just a very cleverly done story that, and there might be debunking out there that I'm unaware of. I don't know. But the Black Knight satellite is something that is extremely interesting. It's supposedly a constructed satellite that's been in Earth's orbit for 15,000 years.
What does that take you back to? That takes you back to some Graham Hancock stuff,
Graham
right?
Hancock stuff. Yeah, exactly. So I want to address this. Kaiju Ninja, 1985. Do you think there are Dogman kill squads? I'm going to assume you mean human kill squads that are out there to kill Dogman. I don't know. I do think that if there was and it wouldn't be the entire government, but if there was a segment of the government that was to the point that they were taking well-trained, like, troops in, people that were armed specifically and trained specifically to deal with these things. I don't know. Part of me instantly wants to say no, it's ridiculous. But are there government recovery teams for UFOs out there? It sounds like there might be. So might there be some sort of government thing, entity that is tasked with, when stuff gets too big, going in and clearing it out? Maybe that's what we were seeing at the LBL. I don't know.
It's so weird because it had like the hallmarks. You could actually just say that that's what it is by looking at it. But I don't want to jump to that conclusion because that seems almost like a bridge too far in a way, just because you've heard about it so much and it's kind of sounds ridiculous, but then you see weird kind of almost evidence of it.
I think that if anybody was involved with that, they would never let you come forward to talk.
No.
You would slip in the tub and snap your neck. I think that there might be disinformation allowed on that to make it sound so ridiculous that most people dismiss it.
Just a little bit gets let through.
But I think that when you get to that point that the web of secrecy is so tight that they're not letting anything out that they don't want to come out.
Yeah.
That obviously with like the UAPs over like naval ships, there's too many people to do that with. But this would be a very small compartmentalized group. I don't think that you would ever see the light of day to share that story if that was the case. So.
Yeah. Grace W, thank you for the $10.
Grace W, thank you for that.
They're saying that we're buffering a little bit tonight. I'm gonna drop the quality here and see if that helps. We're gonna go down a little bit in quality here, but we're gonna see if that helps with the buffering issue. Again, we do live in the middle of nowhere right now, and when we move, we'll have excellent internet.
One of the things that's flying into this is that we've had such weird like tech issues around here. We're wondering if we need to.
So when that happens, we'll be good going.
Neo Zed has something. He goes, UFO is not from space. Again, if you haven't watched that UFO series that was on Showtime, it's worth a watch. We're only 2 episodes in, and I think there's only 4 or 5.
It's very well done.
One of the things that's not mentioned in that series, but I thought of watching it last night, was that exact same thing. That people are seeing these lights, and because they're in the sky. Now, I know that there are those outlier cases where people are actually something is communicated with them. Either they've received a message telepathically or they've just had a one-on-one or conversation with something out of these craft that says, hey, we're from Zeta Reticuli. Hey, we're from, Alpha Centauri. Hey, we're from this particular star system. Well, even if they tell you that, how can you confirm that? Maybe they're just telling you what you want to hear. Maybe they're just reinforcing what you're expecting to encounter when you see something like this. It seems like most of the time, this whole like little green men from Mars thing came because these things were in the sky. That's a logical. Well, I mean, is it a logical step to take? You're not seeing this thing enter Earth's atmosphere. You're just seeing it in Earth's sky. Birds are in the sky. They're not
almost. That's like the simplest explanation.
Well, I mean, no, to me, it's not. Birds are in the sky. We don't think birds came from another planet.
Birds aren't real, so
birds aren't real. But it seemed to me that there was a lot of just because that seemed to be the logical assumption. That went hand in hand with a lot of it. When I'm sitting there going, wow, when you really take out this, well, why do you think they're from another planet? Well, it's just because they're in the sky. They came from maybe they came from here. That really kind of tied into the whole ultra-terrestrial, crypto-terrestrial,
Yeah.
interdimensional type thing of it, I'm just going, yeah, why do we think that they're from another planet? Well, because they move in ways that maybe they just may move in ways that we can't duplicate, and they're from here. At no point do we have, unless there's evidence out there that we're unaware of these things traveling through space and entering our atmosphere. And
we don't have proof that they're from space, and we don't have proof of the contrary.
Yeah.
So yeah. Dead and Yard Haunt, thank you for that, sir.
Donkey Fund.
For the Donkey Fund.
The Donkey
Hee-haw.
Fund. So Donkey Fund kind of died down a little bit. Yeah, we got to get back on that donkey.
We gotta get a donkey.
Somebody super chatted us £9.99. Did you see that? Did you skip over that? Or you may not have made it that point, Chad.
I don't know. I have to take
pound sterling. We're getting pretty classy here. So
I have to go pound out a pee. I have to go to the bathroom.
So classy. So used television is yeah, I saw you in the chat earlier, but used televisions is near us and is having some weird stuff going on. We tried to respond to you on Facebook Messenger, and it's showing that you're unavailable on Facebook Messenger. We got a message from you, but we're unable to respond to you. So might just be some Facebook shenanigans, might be something up with that, but we're unable to respond to you on that right now. MK Ultra, Jody Goodman, a barred owl can scare the crap out of you and a panther screaming. We have heard both. We have heard what we assume to be panthers because we've seen panther sign in an area, mountain lion sign. We've heard it's mountain lions. We hear barred owls all the time. Barred owl is like the official bird of Hellbent Holler. And then Lance Landmark goes, a goat with his head caught in the fence sounds just like a woman screaming. That I've never heard. I've never heard a goat with its head caught in the fence. And maybe there's no goats with their heads caught in the fence where we're going to, but it's interesting to hear that. So it's funny. I've mentioned this on here, but I haven't talked about it in a while, but our area is undergoing a lot of growth, like certain parts of the South are. So we have people that are moving from urban areas up north and out west, moving to more rural areas in the South right now. And we don't usually use like cryptid or Bigfoot Facebook groups to look for witness encounters. We look for them in areas where people aren't interested in this sort of stuff and they're still trading weird stories. So I'd seen something on like the Nextdoor app for our area where a lady was talking about that there were monkeys in the woods coming up to her fence line and basically attacking her dogs. And I'm like, monkeys in the woods of South Carolina coming up to the fence line and attacking your dogs. So I'm instantly like getting in touch with her, and we're going, oh my Lord, there's like monkeys in the woods here. You know what that is? We've got like Sasquatch activity here. We went, she had just moved to the area and her neighbor had peacocks and she heard the peacock screams and she thought that was monkey sound and that the monkeys were attacking her dogs. Yeah. So that was disappointing and also interesting because we had never had peacock sounds being misinterpreted as something else.
Peacocks are terrifying.
Peacocks are kind of jerks when you get down
and
to
annoying animals. All right, where are we?
I'm like insanely behind, so if you want to go kind of catch up through there.
I'm going down. I'm going down, baby. You're straight in a Range Rover. TCR44 says, Jesse, I'm sure you're aware of Crowley, Crowley, communication with the entity called Lamb. Apparently it looked very similar to a gray. Yeah, the Lamb description is basically what is on Whitley Strieber's book. Is basically like almost the exact description of that.
And that seemed to strike such a chord with people that obviously Whitley Strieber's book was more people were exposed to that cover of Communion than they were to Aleister Crowley's, the drawing of Lamb. And that's just so fascinating to me because Lamb and all of that, they talk about their communing with like the great old ones. And then you start getting into the similarities between H.P. Lovecraft and Madame Blavatsky and how each of them claim to be now H.P. Lovecraft couched his in terms of fiction, but there's a train of thought if people think that he was tapped into some sort of like subconscious memory of these great old ones. And that if you look at there's a lot of similarities between the entities that Madame Blavatsky claimed to be in contact with. It's weird. There's similarities, and then there's some things that are polar opposite. I'm getting in touch with these enlightened old ones that are going to bring mankind to a paradise, versus I'm getting in touch with these enlightened old ones that are going to bring like apocalyptic
Pure
hell.
destruction.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly, to Earth. So
I heard somewhere that Elvis was a follower of Madame Blavatsky's teachings.
When we were doing the show for the Collins Elite
Mhm.
and Jack Parsons and the occult roots of modern rocketry, both with the Germans and the Americans, that was such a spider web to try to research, because that was one of the things I went down, is the Aleister Crowley connection, and then how they were talking about great old ones, and then the Blavatsky stuff. Blavatsky was a big influence on Aleister Crowley, and then the similarities between her and H.P. Lovecraft, and then the Lovecraftian kind of, let's just call it mythology, that goes on. But that was just such a,
you can bring
my
it.
head's hurting right now sitting here just thinking about it.
You can bring it up to
yeah.
right now with people who are performing CE5, who are doing ritualistic.
They're summoning stuff. That's
summonings, yes. And of course, you'll have people who perform CE5. There's a guy who, what is this podcast? Engaging the Phenomenon? That's what it is. Engaging the Phenomenon. It's a really good podcast. He does a great job. He interviews a lot of really interesting people. But he actually got to interview Peter Levenda, which is very hard to find.
I don't know who that is.
Peter Levenda is he's kind of a like low. I don't know. He's
Levenda.
Peter Levenda, yeah, I think he does stuff with To the Stars, but I think he's a Satanist and he does like satanic stuff. But the guy that does Engaging the Phenomenon, he does CE5. Peter Levenda, yeah.
Yeah, okay. A cult historian.
Yeah.
About the esoteric Hitlerism and Nazi occultism.
There you go. Yeah. But he also does stuff with contactees, contact UFOs, UAPs. But there's also that connection with CE5, and that guy does CE5, and he did a whole episode where he's like, people keep accusing me of doing rituals when I do CE5, and it's not, because I don't believe in religion. And it's like, okay, this is still a ritual. You're still performing a prescribed action for a certain reaction from the universe, or a certain summoning. So you're doing this, and you can call it whatever you want to call it, but what you're doing is exactly that. You're performing a ritual. CE5 is absolutely some sort of ritualistic thing, because you're chanting, you're meditating. These are all things that are used in occult practices. So
right here, this is
I found our pound sterling.
Okay. No one you know says, from firsthand experience, I can tell you UFOs are real, but I can't tell you what they really are. Accounts like that have like a ring of truth to them. People that, and I don't care whether you're flesh and blood, you're completely in the side of the woo, whether you're into Bigfoot, UFOs, Dogman, anything like that. People that come with all of the answers and just go, all of y'all are wrong. This is what it is.
That's a red flag.
Listen to me. How do you have this information? Now, if somebody was to go, these things communicate, I don't understand how they're doing it. Anybody who doesn't have a certain level of bewilderment dealing with this stuff does not seem authentic to me.
Yeah.
This is what I saw. I don't know what they were. I don't know what they were doing. I don't know where they came from. This is all I can tell you. This is what I saw. Not, they just have this completely fleshed out story where they have all the answers. Everybody else is wrong, and you have to listen to me, but I can't tell you how I know this for certain. Okay. But stuff like this going, I know they're real. What is the lady's name that broke the Leslie Keene, who broke the New York Times story? She's got a good quote.
That's the utmost confidence of a bullshitter is what it is.
Yeah, well, it's somebody, but she goes, she doesn't like when people say that they believe in UFOs, because she goes, belief doesn't have anything to do with it. They're real. Now, she doesn't know what they are, but that's like,
they're there. You can see them.
It's like saying, I don't believe in gravity.
Yeah.
You may not know what, at the end of the day, we may not understand a lot about gravity, but it's there. A lot of it's a mystery. Same thing with like the UAP phenomenon or Sasquatch or Dogman. It's real. I just don't think any of us have a full picture of it. I think that different people have little slices, little pieces of the puzzle, and maybe we can put together a corner piece and kind of get an idea of the image on the front. But But I don't think anybody has the full thing here.
Thank you, Jim, for
Jim,
that.
Cocaine Dog.
For the Cocaine Dogman Barge House.
We're going to get the friggin' I don't know. We're going to get the DEA kicking down our door next.
Where's the cocaine?
Where's the cocaine?
It's in the Dogman.
We've been monitoring your YouTube. What's the Dogman code for? Where's the barge? All right.
Goodness gracious.
I'm like insanely behind. Abnormal Investigations popped in. If you're still on, good to see you. We're just about an hour behind in the chat here. At least I am.
Secret 1975 says that on the fence with the Black Knight, I think it's a thermal blanket from a legit launch.
That's what people say. Other than it's weird. That's one of those topics that I find very interesting, but it has literally nothing to do with the stuff that we do. So I haven't spent as much time as I would like researching it, just because we can't keep up with the stuff that might have at least a connection somewhat to the stuff that we're looking into.
Mm-hmm.
But you're probably right. Like I said, I've heard all of those. It's really interesting.
Here you go. What the flock? Jesse and Joe need a new home
fund. Yeah, thank you.
We're just complaining because we have been just looking.
We were in a very rural area, and like I said, there's a lot of growth going on here, and it's not all good growth either. So that, and we need more room. We need to get an actual dedicated studio space and everything like
because
that.
right now, like when you see like one of us has to go to the bathroom, especially me, because I'm in the corner over here. I have to sneak out because I'm right by the wall. Okay. I have to sneak out and then sidle through and worm my way out. I have to gummy worm my way out and go out the door. But there's literally right in front of me here behind the camera, I have cases stacked to the ceiling.
Of equipment, old boxes.
We have backpacks, books,
electronic gear that we're in the process of doing.
Yeah, it's just a chaos zone. So I think that Hellbent Holler has outgrown where we are. So we need to up the ante here a little bit. Not today, Saban. This is great. If you at all consider the theory that Homo sapiens were engineered, it's not illogical that they'd be advanced enough to have something like the Black Knight satellite for surveillance to watch over their creation.
I go into that thing of, I know that's a very popular theory that mankind, and I guess that's something that somebody like me, I can't prove or disprove that.
We keep CCTV cameras on zoo enclosures after all.
So going to the second part about CCTVs and zoo enclosures. There was a guy named Eric Weinstein that was on Joe Rogan recently talking about how he has become somewhat involved into looking into the UAP phenomenon. And he makes a lot of grandiose claims, and I don't know whether any of his claims are true or not. And he makes a lot of other claims as far as physics go. And quite honestly, I don't think anybody short of someone with a PhD in physics would be educated enough to really offer an opinion on it. He did have one thing that really stood out that was interesting to me. He talks about North Sentinel Island, which is that island where you always hear about uncontacted tribes.
Yes.
That's the one that's off the coast, that it's under India is the country that has control over North Sentinel Island. And people have occasionally tried to go there, and the tribesmen that live on the island are very violent, and they just kill people. Somebody went there not too long ago to try to proselytize, to try to like a missionary, and they just basically killed him on the shore. But anyway, so they are a community of people that are on this small island, and they occasionally have interaction with let's just call it the outside world. They just get fleeting little glimpses, like a ship crashed there. So the Sentinelese basically went from the Stone Age to the Iron Age overnight, because they went on this ship and they took iron, and then they were able to make spearheads and arrowheads and tools and everything. Now they don't know how to work iron. They don't know how to smelt iron. They don't really know anything about the properties of iron and how you get it, but they found it and they can use it. Now they also probably don't have any idea about what India is as a country. They don't know that they're under the protection of a greater country keeping other people from contacting them.
Mm-hmm.
So obviously you can see the parallels that are drawn between Earth maybe being under the purview, like the protection of something greater that we're unaware of. Maybe we're a planetary wide equivalent to the North Sentinel Island. And then he also went on to talk about, so what happens one day if all of a sudden India is watching these, they were Stone Age, now they're Iron Age, arguably, tribes people. What if all of a sudden a small mushroom cloud goes up on one end of the island? Oh my God, they've got nukes. Wouldn't you see all of a sudden just that kind of hands-off protection would then become more involved
Yeah.
and a lot more involved? And that tied in with how all of this activity seems like it kicked into overdrive after we, entered the atomic age. But I'm listening to that and I'm going, that makes a lot of sense. That maybe we were the version of, not necessarily a zoo enclosure or anything like that, but maybe it was something that something out there was going, keep these people away. But people still kind of, outsiders still occasionally kind of stumbled their way in. And then all of a sudden, we jumped leaps and bounds in technology. And now maybe that's why we're under greater. Now all of a sudden, these aren't a curiosity to just kind of keep safe. Now maybe all of a sudden there's something here. So just thought that was interesting. The whole North Sentinel Island.
That's a great analogy. Stephen Taylor says, could you speak on the Babylon working with Jack Parsons? So we talked about this on the diabolical hypothesis. We talked a lot about Jack Parsons. He was basically the father of American rocketry. He had the JPL, which was, he basically invented rocket fuel, but he was also a dedicated Thelemite. He practiced Thelema. He was the head of the OTO in Los Angeles. Order Templi Orientis.
And that's the Crowley.
That's the Crowley thing, right? Yes. So, Thelema was Crowley's ritualistic religion, basically. But they engaged in sex magic a lot, and that's basically how they manifested their will and their power. It's a very Gnostic-based religion, so you are your own god, and you manifest whatever you want. There is no greater power or will higher than yours.
I'm gonna step out while you're on a soapbox.
On a soapbox. But we talked about this in the diabolical hypothesis and how it kind of relates to the UFO phenomenon. The Babylon working itself was something that Jack Parsons did with L. Ron Hubbard. And you may know who Lafayette Ron Hubbard is because he is the founder of Scientology. He actually founded Scientology with Jack Parsons' former wife, who ran off with L. Ron Hubbard. So there was a lot of sexual mingling between all of these people because they were all involved in the OTO, which used sex magic in a lot of their rituals and a lot of the stuff they did. So L. Ron Hubbard and Jack Parsons decided that they would do something. I think it was Liber 49 that describes the Babylon working. The purpose of the Babylon working was to bring about the Antichrist. It was supposed to bring forth and conjure up Babylon, and basically the whore of Babylon, which would eventually bear the Antichrist. Jack Parsons was hoping to procreate with Babylon to create the Antichrist and usher in a new era, the new age, the age of Aquarius, and it would spread Thelema across the globe at that point. So they did this, and they think that, they were under the impression, Jack was under the impression that it brought forth his final wife. And when, he thought that she was a person that was actually involved in his temple, for a while with that. So I don't think that she was brought forth. She was already there, and she kind of just hooked up with him after that. But he was convinced that she was the one. She was the one that he had conjured up. What we talked about in diabolical hypothesis was the possibility that they opened up this portal and that they didn't finish their working, that they opened up this portal. They thought they had finished it, but they didn't actually finish it. Jack Parsons actually died in an explosion at his home while he was tinkering around with some explosives, which is something he did on a regular basis, and he did it his entire life. But he died at about 36 or 37, I think it was, in an explosion in his home. And I think his last words were, "No, I'm not finished yet." So we don't know if he was actually tinkering around with rocketry, his rocketry work, or if he was tinkering around with his ritualistic work, and he had this explosion happen. So we hypothesized that he possibly opened up a portal during that ritual, and you have to be the one to close a portal when you're doing a ritual or opening up that door, not necessarily a portal but a door. So we hypothesized that because he got killed during that ritual, he didn't close the door. And so after that happened, you had such an onset of all of these UAP observations. You had people seeing UAPs. You had people experiencing extraterrestrials, as we'll call them. And then also there was an uptick in what would be considered cryptid sightings. There was a lot of paranormal activity that really kicked off after that. Cryptid sightings.
The modern UFO age.
The modern UFO age was ushered in at that point. So that's kind of our theory on the connection between Jack Parsons, OTO, the Babylon working, and this huge just influx of UFO and UAP sightings.
Very old comment. Cryptid Castleberry. Recently, Phantoms and Monsters posted a woman's report of a glimmer man, which she said made a clicking sound. It reminded Cryptid Castleberry of the North Georgia audio that we caught. I'll have to try to go through. Open up another
tab.
Open up another tab. Phantoms and Monsters.
Phantoms and Monsters.
Glimmer Man. All right. We'll go back to that later. All right. Try not to have any like dead air here.
Yeah,
man.
make sure you guys hit that like button. I know you guys are on here, so hit it. Somebody said that we have our likes turned off where you can't see the number of likes on our video. I'll check that after the stream. I don't think I turned that off.
It's not enough. I'll tell you that much right now. It's just not enough.
It's never enough. But yeah, I'll check that. I don't know what that setting is. I'll just check that out.
This is an old one, but Jim Berthold asks, why would you hype in flip-flops? We were out like where were we at? In North Carolina, Georgia? I don't know where we were, but we were out hiking, but we were like 10 miles from the trailhead. And we're just out, and it's not a very well-maintained trail, and it's a ways away. We hear something coming through the brush. Remember that couple we ran into? And they were in flip-flops, and they have no water, and they're like arguing because they were like lost. And we were trying to talk to them, and they were kind of like,
they were really
dicks.
rude.
They were like real rude. So I was just like, fine, then go on.
Die in the woods.
But they didn't have any water, and we're trying to explain to them that you're 10 miles from the trailhead. No, we're not that far. I'm going, you're that far, man. And the sun is setting, and you have no food or water.
And then they were headed off in a direction. And I was like, oh, no, don't go that way. Don't go that way.
And then just off they go. So we've
like,
often wondered,
what happened to them?
Yeah, what happened to them?
Because the way they went was not taking you back to the trailhead. We came from that direction. Mm-hmm. The direction they went was taking you around the mountain and then further into like the forest. And that was a very rough trail because you and I had done that trail before. Yeah. R.I.P. a-holes.
Yeah, R.I.P. a-holes. Jerry Post asks, what about the Black Pyramid in Alaska? I thought the Black Pyramid was in Antarctica. I don't know. That's kind of out. I don't know much about that. I know there's been talk about that, but I don't know that much about it. That's one of those things that I don't really know too much about it.
Pyromedic says, I heard last night that male peacocks put off infrasound when they flail their feathers, that it is picked up by the female through their head splay of feathers.
Is that real? I don't even know.
So you can add peacocks to your infrasound
testing.
Your rant.
You know what I might do one night? Like,
we can go. I know where we can get our hands on some peacocks. I got a guy.
You got a peacock guy.
I got a guy.
I got a guy.
But like where we can take the equipment and be around peacocks. And actually get some readings on peacocks and infrasound. But you can add peacocks to your infrasound rant after that. Now, what's kind of cool, what made me think...
Holy hell, he's actually talking... Hey, yeah, peacocks produce very low infrasonic sounds while displaying to peahens. I thought you were just making that up, man. That's like, how do you know that?
What does that remind you of? This is a connection to the LBL too. We were at the nature station a couple years ago in the LBL, and they have a turkey there that is captive, and he's huge. And every time he would come over to us, he would do this vibrating thing, and it would sound like a UFO landing when he would do it. Do you remember that?
Yeah, I do.
It was like,
but yeah, peacocks produce infrasound. I'm probably going to one night while Jesse's at work. I might, when I'm doing some of the infrasound, I don't want to say testing, but just I guess testing's the word for it. Running the infrasound equipment just to kind of like establish baselines. I might just kind of go on a quick live. A lot of y'all won't find that very interesting. Some of you all might actually see that infrasound
they'll
equipment.
find it interesting.
See that infrasound equipment in real time work, and just to kind of see what's out there. Did you see Southern Sasquatch?
No, you're catching up that middle, buddy boy.
Southern Sasquatch, $5 for the Gear and Donkey Fund. One gear and donkey, please. So thank you for that, Southern Sasquatch. We greatly appreciate that. Thank you. So I will probably use that for gear. The donkey's on the back burner for right now. So
What the flock? I was talking about, this is me talking about all the equipment and crap I'm looking at right now. He goes, tell me you're a paranormal investigating hoarder without telling me you're a paranormal investigating hoarder.
She's a paranormal investigating hoarder, man. There's no ifs, ands, or buts around that. So
Dewey gave me some dowsing rods. Yeah. So I added that to the pile. So there's that.
BR Gator asks a question. He goes, and I don't know if that's addressed to us, something in the chat. He goes, you don't think we've back engineered any UFO craft yet? I think that there's definitely some human built tech that might be based on something else operating in the skies. And that's also what people are seeing. I say that with Dogman. When people go, oh, they're engineered by the CIA to do this, and I'm going, I can't say whether they are or not. I don't have nothing I've seen or heard of has led me to think that, but maybe they are. I don't know. But if let's say the government did get their hands on one of these things, I would expect them to fully, it's not really reverse engineering, but I could see them trying to make one of their own, either to figure out how to combat it, how to control it, how to do something, maybe just to use for their own ends. So just like I think some of the craft that people are seeing in the sky are from somewhere else, and then some of them are things that we've built to try to like maybe understand or mimic or duplicate those things from somewhere else. I think that some of the physical things you see on the ground are the exact same way. There may be things that we have tried to get a handle on and build. So
what?
And the ex-wife talk has started up again.
Oh, it's down here too, because I was talking about the Whore of Babylon, because I was talking about the Babylon working. So
and
they've all dated her.
They've all dated her.
Paul M, we'll get on this. What are your thoughts on Bigfoot Dogman following a migratory route? Have you ever tried to map out sightings with times of year? I don't think we have enough information to even start to map anything like that.
The stuff that we were mapping out, and that's all firsthand information that we were getting from firsthand reports. People actually going, this happened to me. Didn't seem to follow north of us, didn't seem to follow any sort of time of the year, didn't seem to follow any discernible pattern other than a geographic cluster that stretched from north to southeast.
Yeah.
And then just seemed like it stopped all at once. I will say, regardless of what you think about Dark Waters mapped some of these creatures out and said they seem to follow a discernible pattern.
He's got a lot more data than we do.
Yeah, he's got a lot more data when it comes to that. But we don't go after witnesses to speak to witnesses. We're more first person. We want to experience it and try to document it ourselves. We'll talk to witnesses if it's able to kind of further our own investigations, but we don't spend all of our time collecting stories. From what I've seen, now I'll take this back to Sasquatch because I've done more on this. I always really struggled with people that went, well, they're coming into areas when certain, vegetation is about, or they're following the elk, or they're doing this and that. And a lot of times I'd struggle with that, because for every report that you would find that seemed to suggest that these things were following a certain pattern, you'd find another report that just was not in that pattern at all. So for me, I think at least I'm sure there's people out there that disagree with me, but I think that so much of the stuff is unknown, and humans like to quantify things and put it in understandable. We look for patterns out of chaos a lot of times. And I think that's what a lot of people do with this, as far as finding like migration routes and this and that. I think there's a certain level of that in some areas, but I think that a lot of times we're looking for patterns where there are no patterns.
Yeah. Jay Myers, Jesse knows a peacock guy, and Joe wants gorilla pee.
Welcome to our lives, man.
And Bernie follows up with peacocks and gorilla pee. What type of channel is this? Welcome to Hellbent Holler.
Channel that's losing subscribers all the time, man. Just for something like this.
Oh, Dead and Yard Hunt for the Peacock Fund.
Tax write-off at the end of the year. I donated X amount of dollars for a donkey.
How
X amount of
are we
dollars
gonna move with all of these?
All of this livestock we're going to have. So,
thank you, Cowboy 5 Rings. Thank you so much for that. That is cool as heck. Cool as heck.
Cool as heck. You guys are all across the board. 33rd Parallel, Cthulhu,
I know.
the Brill Society. It's crazy. So, all
right. Rick does Shotokan for Dogman Repellent.
Hey, thank you.
Hey, I don't know if we need it's when we carry holy water, that seems to work all right.
I'm gonna throw that out there too, that it's what we've talked about that in the past. We need to actually try to, because again, we're looking to get activity to try to document it, to try to share it and maybe get some understanding ourselves. But I'll be damned if every time we've taken holy water or blessed black salt. Now we usually take them both. Actually, we always take them out at the same time. So maybe it's one or the other.
Separate them out.
Yeah, separate them out. See what it does. See if we. But that means sometimes it will be going out and maybe not having anything happen, but it'll maybe further our understanding of what keeps the activity away. So.
Kaiju Ninja 1985 says, Peacock, I know a new Hellbender's son.
The one where she did with the gummy bear, the whiskey, and the dog piss whiskey.
The divorce papers.
And the divorce papers was, yeah.
But if you want a hand sign, we're going to do this. How about that? Look at that kid. Yeah, I love all those logos. I think they were funny. I put one on the thumbnail today.
Cocaine Hogzilla. I'm way behind right now.
I ought to put like a line of Coke on the thumbnail too.
Boom, boom, boom. It's right here is a good one. Shade Viking. I love hearing everybody's theories and stuff. It's cool to ponder the mysteries of the universe, as do I. I even like hearing stuff that is the polar opposite of what I believe or what I kind of think is likely. Jesse and I are opposites on a lot of stuff. As long as people aren't like aggressive with it and that they try to control the narrative. My opinion's changed a great deal over time. My way of thinking has changed a great deal over time, and it's probably going to change more as this progresses. But anybody trying to like even infrasound, something that I have very strongly held opinions on, I'm still open to being wrong. I just think that if somebody's going to tell me I'm wrong, they should be able to tell me how they have figured that out, as opposed to just reading it on the internet. So, but I that's one of the things we really enjoy on here is hearing other people's theories. As long as people are just open to a discussion, that's the coolest part about all of this. So,
but they weren't saying that like, peacocks use infrasound to stun people and stuff like that. It was more for like horny stuff.
You're talking about horny stuff, right? So, all right.
Oh goodness.
Bernie Gannon has a thing that I just want to pick up. He's talking about Eric Weinstein is undoubtedly brilliant, a great listen, but he goes off the deep end at times. He is, and that's a bitter dude, man. That's a bitter guy. So,
Grace W has a good point here. I love hearing a counter argument to something that is making sense to me because it helps me see what I might be missing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it gives you a more rounded out picture of what you're trying to talk about, and it helps you understand another perspective as well, because somebody's coming at it from another direction than you are. I mean, even the difference in between being a man and a woman and talking about a subject, you can kind of get a different perspective on it, maybe see something that you've been missing.
Our friend Carlito's here. Hello, Carlito. And then now I'm into the Whore of Babylon comments, so that's where I'm.
God bless you.
God bless you. Go with God, my son.
Go with God, my son. Boyo. Chaos has an interesting point here. Something is trying to push the idea that holy water is making a difference.
Bingo.
Say it'll lure you into comfort, and then you'll be out there with your holy water, and it'll just be
deceiving you, or it's just deceiving you so that you think that the origins of the activity is demonic, and you start to follow that path again, that whole there is it the deceiver or is it a trickster? Does it follow more of a trickster thing, or does it follow the Christian deceiver element, like the serpent deceivers?
What's the difference is what, like a lightheartedness in a way?
Well, I mean, the
And
trickster
evil.
activity in folklore was not really lighthearted. It would lead you into the woods and you would drown in a pool, you know. It wasn't necessarily, oh, it's hidden my car keys again. It killed my cattle, and so.
It killed my cattle. Womp womp.
Womp. Hey, that's part of the reason why people would leave offerings out to these things. To fairy, like the fae, they would lead it out to keep it from slaughtering their livestock or killing their kids. They weren't doing it because, oh, I've got this cute little forest gnome that lives outside my. No, they were doing it to keep it from, like, basically stripping away their ability to survive.
But then you're paying fealty to these creatures.
Just like I think people are doing gifting to these sites. People always go, don't do it, because they get used to it, and then they respond negatively when you take it away from them. And I'm going, that ties in exactly. You've now drawn another correlation between fae activity and Sasquatch activity.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
You've done fade yourself.
Fade yourself. All right, guys, we're going to be, if anybody's got anything, go ahead and speak now.
Yeah.
We're kind of going to wrap it up here shortly.
We're not going super late tonight.
Yeah, we'll throw this out for you guys. We're thinking about, what is it?
The face sucks.
We're thinking about doing we've had some people ask us to get back into doing dark dives again.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of the topical stuff where we come prepared with a topic and Jesse and I discuss it. We're toying around the idea of doing those, but we're thinking about doing them on a live structure. Kind of, the Monday nights are always just going to be free flowing. We don't come up with prepared topics. We might have like a little thing or two we want to bring up, but most of this is driven by the chat and you all. But we're thinking about doing a live stream, maybe even just for like an hour a week, where we come and it's specifically a predetermined topic.
Yeah, we'll have a topic that we'll discuss. We'll have a topic that we're ready to discuss and talk about with each other. We wouldn't be interacting so much with the chat because we want it to be more like the Dark Dive podcasts that we do and produce and put out. So it'd be mostly us discussing a topic while the chat is going. But we were discussing, if we do that, there would be an interactive element at the end of it, probably, where we would take questions from the super chats
or get like input from people who are familiar with it and they want to like offer an opinion.
But that would be the only way we could kind of parse down the chat, is if we had it where it was highlighted.
Figure something out. So if it's any interest in it, we might think about doing it. Again, it would be more of a structured. It wouldn't be as free flowing.
Yeah, it would be and it would be a specific topic that we are coming ready to discuss, and we'll actually probably put it out as a podcast after it's done. It won't be as a live. It won't be like listed as a live. Well, maybe listed as a live, but also probably put it out on podcast aggregators because it would be Dark Dive Live, and we would just kind of sit down and he and I would discuss in real time these topics and discuss these topics. And then you guys could have the chat going where you guys can chat with each other. But like I said, it's not going to be as interactive as the Monday streams are. So let us know what you guys think about that.
Thank you, Carlito, Cryptid and Paranormal Kingdom. What did you guys think? Carlito had a show last night with a Bigfoot researcher named Greg. I can't remember his last name off the top of my head. He had some interesting stuff. The one thing that I saw that I was really kind of struck by is he had what looked like that wolf creature coming out of a tree. This Bigfoot researcher has a lot of photos that he shared with Carlito. And if you guys get a chance, pop on over to Cryptid and Paranormal Kingdom and check it out. He had a photo of what looked like a wolf head coming out of a tree. And our internet was running slow, so we were having trouble following some of the discussion on it. What I'm interested in is what happened like after that. Was that just like did he see something come out? His stuff's really provocative. It's interesting. And I wanted to, and that was something that I was kind of getting frustrated with. And it was our internet, not yours, that we were having trouble kind of keeping up with it. So it's something we're going to go back and kind of watch again because I want to see what he's got to say about that. He caught a wolf creature that seems like it's coming out of a tree. You think that's crazy, but Ron Moorhead talks about Sasquatch coming out of trees.
Yeah, and changing their quantum state.
And that was something that really struck us as interesting, is this photo that looks like a wolf head and the process of coming out of a tree. And I wanted to know what his story was after that. So yeah, for you guys, it's interesting. It's very interesting. So
Hang on. Denny Kopic says, "What's in your future?" Well, all right. So here's our plans in the short term, long term. Here we go. We need. We're trying to buy a house right now. That's why we are just crazy people, and we're having trouble answering emails. We addressed that at the beginning of the show. So that's what we're gonna do, and hopefully that goes smoothly with what we're doing right now. Say a little prayer for the Hellbender ma and pa here. But hopefully that goes smoothly, and then we'll have a better studio space and a better space to actually film a bigger variety of videos for you guys. So we'll always do the field investigations. We'll also still do dark dives. We'll still do our Monday live shows, but we kind of want to expand out kind of what we do. And I think that us kind of moving to a new place is going to really assist in that and really help change that dynamic there.
because we're heading into the slow season for us, at least as far as like actual field investigations go.
Yeah, when it's super hot, we don't go out into the woods because we have just so much gear and we can't carry enough water to stay alive.
The last time we tried it in like real, just like the middle of the South Carolina summer, we spent all of our time trying to like stay hydrated, filtering water, drinking it. Everything is body temperature or warmer, so the thermal doesn't work quite as well.
Also, the freaking bugs, the cicadas.
The cicadas are so loud, as you
the
guys
real
know,
cicadas,
that you can't hear anything. And if you try to like record anything with your audio recorders, all you get's the sound of the cicadas. So there's a lot fighting against you. So a lot of times, and not to mention that more people are out in the woods in the summertime. So you always have to take that with a grain of salt. If you hear an unexplained noise, the human element has been upped a great deal.
Mm-hmm.
So what we want to do is that while the field investigations ramp off, we want to use that as an opportunity to more on the podcast end, with the understanding though that when the weather cools off, that will drop off exponentially, and then it'll be more into the field investigation.
Yeah, we'll kind of have seasons of things.
Yeah.
But we have a lot of stuff coming down right now because I have so much footage. I have all of that LBL footage. I have all of that Brown Mountain Lights footage. I have some North Georgia stuff that I need to release. And so you're going to continue to get field investigation videos over the next while. And then we're still going out in the woods too, because it's not going to be summer for a little while, although it's going to get really hot soon. But also we have 3 or 4 hard drives of videos. And I talked about this before, doing some from the vault kind of stuff, like from the archives. So I have that stuff, but we'll still go out as we can when it gets really hot. But we're not putting off going out until it gets super hot.
Yeah.
So
Stingray 1975. So what happened to the abandoned campground at the LBL? So we found that abandoned campground. We didn't know there was a campground down there when we just started noticing the recently closed off gates and how they were really kind of they were going a few steps beyond just shutting a gate with an old rusty padlock. This was like new chain and padlock. They had the wood on the sides of it that had been staked down to keep people from taking bikes or motorcycles in there. So we went down in and kind of found that network of old roads that had been closed down for a while. We found that campground. We found that kid's jacket there. So that was where we tried to go back to the following day, and there were unmarked police vehicles, one from Tennessee and one from Kentucky at that gate. And we also had a run-in where we were informed that a call had been made concerning us.
A dime had been dropped.
So we didn't have a chance to get back in there. Now, do I think that the unmarked cars were there because of any call? No, I don't. Something else happened that made us think that. I think the unmarked cars were there because either I don't know why they were there. Well, I have some ideas why they were there. I'm not ready to talk about those yet. But as far as that campground goes, we've been researching it, and there's some really interesting stuff going on with that. That campground used to be one of the major campgrounds in the LBL, and it was nice. There was a lot going on there. It's a beautiful area. But it was shut down mysteriously in 1982.
Yes.
For 2 years.
Yes.
Now, we don't think that this is the same spot where the 1982 RV massacre happened,
But it's awful strange.
that maybe they shut down. But this campground is near a lot of reported dogman activity.
Yes.
So it's almost like maybe something happened in 82 and they were like, we need to shut down some campgrounds that are
We got to get a handle on
near
this.
where the stuff's happening.
Yeah.
And then they opened parts of it back up, and then they closed it down for safety concerns because supposedly the infrastructure was just too old. But then we've talked about the fact that they just let infrastructure rot up there, and you can just walk right up to it. You can walk up to that observation tower. It's like the size of a silo. There's pieces falling off it. There's no safety concerns with that. Why was there a safety concern? Why did they have to go in and wreck the ice shacks and just everything there and try to literally erase this place from memory? So we're still looking into that. But here's the question: is that why were there 2 unmarked cars there the following day? Did we trip something going into there? Is that area under observation? When we talked about it, did somebody? Because here's where I'm coming at. We're a small YouTube channel. I would think that we're not on anybody's radar. We don't have any delusions of grandeur. I don't think that we've got an FBI agent, my FBI agent who watches our channel and sees what we're up to. In the grand scheme of things, we are very small and we're very inconsequential. So I don't think that's the case unless they just watch everything that comes out in regards to the LBL and they saw where we were. Regardless, there was a response to us going there, and that adds to the complexity of how do you get in there and research that area then.
Yes.
So we've got some ideas that we're not going to share, but we're not done with that area yet. So.
Oh no, I'm sorry. Stamer 1975 follows up with that saying you have video from there, right? Yes.
Yes.
We have video from there. We have video from there. We filmed the entire time we were walking around that area. So yes.
Carlito answered. He says he sees them and they are not threatening to him. Huh. That's atypical for dogman activity, but interesting. So, but like I said, we need to go back and watch it people said we were buffering. Part of the reason we're leaving is because we're kind of hampered by the internet. We're able to get into this area.
We still have DSL.
Yeah, we still have DSL. That tells you everything you need to know. So,
yeah. So I think we're going to wrap it up in a second. We got a lot of people heading off. And so if you guys have anything else you want to talk about or address, this is last call for alcohol.
Last call.
So, but yeah, we got a lot going on and we're excited about the future, about everything we have coming up.
Yeah.
And, as always, we really love doing these lives with you guys. You guys always bring forth another perspective and you always give us so much homework. Oh my God.
Well, that's why
Joe has so many tabs open
I've got
on his
14
computer.
tabs open right now to go through and look. But, and that's why we were thinking about having the topical, like the dark dive lives, just so we could come prepared for a topic and then try to stay on that topic and not segue off. Cause we're all over the damn place with these lives.
Yeah, we are.
But try to, keep that going and try to stay more topical, try to stay on a particular thing, come prepared, and then just kind of get input at the end, input and questions. So if there's some interest in that, guys, let us know. And that might be something that because again, we're getting into the time of the year that's not that far away where we're not out every weekend because it's too hot. It's just,
good night, Teresa Wilkins.
Good night, Teresa Wilkins. It's just too hot to do. So,
yeah.
Please answer Jay Myers. What did Jay Myers ask?
Please answer him. Where is he?
I don't know. What did Jay Myers ever find the tracks of a dog man? Okay. We have found in North Georgia, we've had that thing that we've talked about a little bit, that weird, and we catch it on the full spectrum camera in the one video, right? On the trail, that weird skinny looking thing that was really pale that we were trying to figure out if it was a coyote or what it was. We were leaving out and we're following this winding mountain road one night and we see what looks like this white wolf on the side of the road. Now we're not filming. We're done. We're going home for the night.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? We're done. We've been out all day into the night and,
but it was solid white and it was huge.
And just sitting on the side of the road looking at us. And we're like, what the hell? It's weird. Now it's possible that somebody's breeding wolf dogs up there, or just wolves up there, and one got out.
Joe's doing his crazy hypothetical.
Yeah, but we go down there. So we're talking about it, and we're even talking about turning around to go back and look at it. We've gone like a couple miles down the road. It's either the same one or one that's just damn near identical on the side of the road. So we're flipping out at that point. We're just going, what is this? What is this? All the stuff's packed up in the back of the car. We're not filming anything. So in that area, we found really large, really deep canine prints.
Mm-hmm.
That seemed unusual, but maybe there's just some really big dogs up there. So we found those. We found some standard canine prints in the LBL that were about 5.5 inches long. That's big. Well, we didn't find any human footprints along with them. So maybe somebody was just letting their St. Bernard run around. We did find that print outside the bunkers in our first werewolf experiment video when that storm was rolling in that looked almost like a human-shaped foot,
but with claws on it,
with claw marks at the end of it.
Yeah.
And I've had people go, well, that's like from a duck boot because it has those striations on top. Yeah, it has striations on top.
They're this long.
They're not pressing the top of their boot into the ground there. It's some sort of what looked like claws there. So we found that away from the bunkers, and that was pointed towards where we had left those bait traps with the Sasquatch pheromone chips and the wolf lore. Was that a dogman print? I don't know. It was a strange human-looking footprint with claw marks in the LBL near the bunkers, near where the 82 massacre supposedly happened. So did we catch a track of a dogman? I don't know, but we found a track of something.
We found a lot of anomalous canine prints.
Yes. So
Matt Keenan, we'll get you right here. Where's your Patreon account for us to support you? We do not have a Patreon account. You can always support us by liking, sharing, and subscribing. Hellbent Holler. Always looking out for new videos. Make sure you comment on our videos. Make sure you watch all of our videos. That's the best way you can support us right now. And we appreciate every single one of you coming on here. We appreciate all of you who throw in those super chats and super stickers.
We have like a PayPal. It's like hellbentholler@gmail.com.
Yeah, we have that.
We don't do much with it. I mean, if somebody ever wants to support us, I mean, as long as they know what they're getting into, and it doesn't, we always tell people to don't
ever put yourself in a bad position ever.
In a bad position ever, even if you enjoy this stuff. But if you enjoy it, we've got a few people that contribute on a monthly basis. We have Sheila Ebeline, who is a generous supporter of ours. We always make sure that we keep her abreast of everything that we're doing.
She's one of our Hell's Little Angels.
Hell's Little Angels. But if anybody ever wants to do that, but that's not asked for. But if you ever want to do it, we put it to good use.
Eventually there may be a Patreon, just because we're going to expand kind of stuff that we do, because I have so many ideas for stuff I want to do, and I think you guys are interested in it too. But that's down the line. Right now, this is all Hellbent Holler, and it's all free to the public. And you guys have at it and enjoy it. Just make sure you like, share, and subscribe, and comment on our videos. That is the best way you can support us right now, is by telling people about our channel and helping us get to 10K kids. We're on our way. So,
but if you are a wealthy person who's looking to, sponsor a couple of just go-getters that are out there doing stuff. You hit the lottery recently. Maybe you had a rich uncle die, and you're just going, what am I going to do with all this money? I got a real burning interest in Bigfoot. Hit us up, man.
Got them dogman dollars.
I ain't going to say no. So anyway.
But yeah.
Hit that like button before you guys head out, man.
Yeah, make sure you do that. Do that. All right, guys. Joe, you have anything else?
I got nothing. Nothing. So
all right, guys. I want you guys to enjoy yourselves. Have a great week. We look forward to seeing you guys next week. I'm working on video. You guys are gonna have new videos.
You might see a live on that infrasound equipment. Just to give a brief thing on that, I might entertain some questions.
You might have a Joe, a solo JoJo. So, all right, guys. Thank you guys so much for joining us for another Hellbent Holler live. We did not slander anybody this week.
Yeah. Anyway, I just got slandered right here. Jay Meyer says I got no shame in the game. Listen, man, if asking for a anonymous billionaire to support what we do is wrong,
I know.
I don't want to be right, man.
I know. So. All right, guys. We appreciate you. You guys are awesome. We love you. Have a blessed night. Have a blessed week. Stay safe out there.
No property taxes if you live on a boat or a barge. Ooh. So, all right.
Sold. All right, guys. Good night. Love you. Y'all be careful.
Thank you.